This is Jocko Podcast number 475 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
Everything is meaningless. What do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again, and what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. What a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. I have seen all things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. And that right there is some scripture from the book of Ecclesiastes, one of the wisdom books from the Old Testament. And it contains reflections and guidance on the meaning of life and of labor and the pursuit of happiness. And it can be found, of course, in the Bible. But some of it can also be found embedded in the tracks of a country folk western honky tonk gospel Americana album called Hymnal of a Troubled Man's Mind by Oliver Anthony Music. And the album, like that book from the Bible, reflects on life, work, pain, and happiness. Oliver Anthony Music is the creation of Christopher Anthony Lunsford, who is the first and only person in history to debut with a #1 song on the Billboard charts without any prior chart history of any kind. That song was called Rich Men North of Richmond. It was released in August of 2023. And the song struck a chord with people, helped people feel heard. And Chris has continued to be heard himself. He's released a dozen singles. And in fact, he was the first male songwriter to chart 13 songs simultaneously in the top 50 digital song sales while alive. Because Michael Jackson did it and Prince did it, but they were both dead. And he released this new album. Like, it's not that new now, but Hymnal of a Troubled Man's Mind. He's toured all over the world. Obviously, his music more popular than most people would have predicted. And about that music, he said, I wrote the music I wrote because I was suffering with mental health and depression. These songs have connected with millions of people on such a deep level because they're being sung by someone feeling the words in the very moment they were being sung. No editing, no agent, no bullshit. Just some idiot and his guitar. And with that, it's an honor to have Christopher Anthony Lunsford of Oliver Anthony Music here with us tonight to share some of his wisdom and lesson learned. Chris, man, thanks for joining us. It's good to meet you finally. I know you and I were trading texts for a while, for a long while, trying to make this happen. You've been a little bit busy. I've been a little bit busy. Welcome.
Just a little bit busy for both of us, yeah.
Yeah. Let's get into it, man. Let's talk about just growing up. What was that like? Where were you at?
Man, I just listening back to what that verse you read and then what you just said kind of took me back a second, because I've been so, the last 3 or 4 months I've been so like engulfed in all this and all these sort of crazy escapades I've been on that I guess we'll touch on later in this episode. But it was like I remember that quote and what was just to touch for a second on that, like that original catalog of music that charted was so crazy that it charted because they were literally all off an Android phone. You know, they weren't even from a studio, but I would write those songs, and then that video that ultimately the MP3 version that I got uploaded, that was right after I wrote the song. It was more or less like the tangible medium, they call it. It was just supposed to be something so people couldn't steal the song if I wanted to go play it in a bar or something like that. And and so going back to what we kind of talked about before we started this episode, like the fact that it was able to reach that kind of achievement, it's because I do genuinely believe in that. Like I said, that purpose we talked about that I guess we'll get into later of where hopefully all this will end up. Yeah. But it's just, to me, it's just shocking to hear to be reminded of that, and that it all happened so crazy like that at the very beginning. But
before you got here, I was talking to Echo Charles, and Echo Charles doesn't play any musical instruments. I, of course, play guitar, but I said, hey, I was talking about a little text conversation that you and I were having. I said, look, dude, I'm a GCD guy. That's where I'm at, and you said, hey, Richmond's only 4 chords, right? And then I got in here, I was kind of telling Echo that story. And I was telling him, like, it's true. 3, 4, 5 chords is what songs are made of. And then he pulled up a video. What was that video you pulled up?
Axis of Awesome.
Axis of Awesome, the 4 chords. And he's showing me this video where this guy's just going from hit song to hit song to hit song. And he's playing the same 4 chords, but just singing the songs over them. And it's so true. But you think about, I think about like right now, AI. Because you would think, okay, well, what do I want to do today? Oh, I don't know what I want to do. I want to make a hit song. So, ChatGPT, write me a hit song. And it's going to kick out, G, C, D, E. And cool. Now start playing that and make some lyrics. Now you have a hit song. But it doesn't work that way. Like it's almost like, they can't recreate life, right? They can't recreate. Like they know what's in a cell. They know all the little chemicals and atoms and molecules that are in a cell, but they can't make that thing come alive. And that's what I feel like for music or for art. You can put all those chemicals in there, you can put those parts in there, but there's some spark that if it doesn't have it, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah, and I pray that we can maintain that level of discernment in the long run, because I do think now that there's been multiple generations of people being just so immersed in digitalization, whether it's like when we were, I was born in 1992, so I grew up in the developmental age of cell phones and computers becoming more available. And then, now it's to the point where most kids, they learn off a tablet in school. Mm-hmm. I fear that there may come a time, and we may be close to it, to where we may not have the cognitive ability to discern true human created art from. Great example is as much as Randy Travis was one of my favorite. That was my grandma's favorite country singer, and I can remember riding in the car with her as a kid, and she would just be jamming Randy Travis. But they did they had an AI generated Randy Travis song that I think actually charted and everything, and a lot of people didn't know the diff. It terrifies me to see where maybe it's going to go. It's like,
where did they source it from?
It was a song that was written, I think, in the 80s, and they AI generated Randy Travis's voice over it, or AI aided the voice, you know. But
so I don't know if we can count that, because even that right there has like there's a little bit of human in there.
There is, yeah,
right, and it's definitely interesting to think about.
Generally speaking, it does work. I agree with you about that. Like, it's. I think that we have this we're very complex creatures, like more complex than anyone ever tells us, and probably more than anyone even really realizes. But even to your point with the verse that you read at the beginning, like with more wisdoms, there's more suffering. And it seems like the more that we know about ourselves, it seems to only destroy us more than it does strengthen us in certain ways. But I do think there's like this, and maybe it's not even that we would lose the ability to discern, but just that we have become almost disconnected even with our own selves, if that makes sense. Like we seem to be so immersed in something here or out here. It's like how many people really take the time to like, there's so many little things going on. We don't know how to grow our own hair, and you think about like our gut biome and how many little things there are alive in there that affect our whole nervous system and how we think and our emotional state and all of that. And we're very complex creatures that we.
Yeah, you got to be able to tap into it too. I know I talk about this thing of squeezing your brain. Okay, so if you want to make something, so sometimes you have something that just kind of, it just bubbles to the surface. Maybe that's what it's like for you when you write a song and it just kind of bubbles to the surface and you have this spark, this idea, and you go write it down and it's cool. But I would venture to guess, even with that, so like I've written books, right? And the books, obviously the nonfiction books are not the same thing, but like writing even the kids' books or a novel, you have this little idea that truly is like a spark. It's just something that comes from nowhere. But in order to make it into something, you got to like squeeze your brain. You got to like squeeze. You got to like squeezing out like frosting out of one of those things that they have in a bakery.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, exactly.
Or toothpaste, like getting that last bit of toothpaste out. Yeah. You got to. It takes work. The song isn't going to write itself. So it takes some level of work to get that song out. And it takes a level of work to get a book out or to get a screenplay out or to create an invention. You know, you have some idea in your head that you think it's good. But man, you got to squeeze your brain and make it work.
Where do you think that idea comes from? Like that's what, so it's funny you say that, guy. I like the squeezing analogy, and I think about, it seems like there's so many things that maybe I don't know if we understand them in our subconscious, and it just takes that time for it to like come into realization. But it seems like, well, in the same way that when you have a problem, you don't understand, if you go and talk to somebody about it, it's almost like you're able to squeeze it into into existence almost, but it's there somewhere already. It's almost not, in some cases it seems like you're not so much creating it, you're able to observe it, or you're able to extract it, if that makes more sense.
Yeah, I think that you're definitely right in that. From my opinion, writing about stuff is a way to kind of organize your thoughts. And I had the unfortunate experience of writing a lot of eulogies for guys that died. And I realized kind of after, or maybe in the middle of writing eulogies for guys that died, that it was very helpful. It was very helpful in processing the grief and the sadness and the anger, and like taking those things and kind of like, okay, let me write about how I'm feeling. And it was beneficial. And I actually did that. One of my friends died who was very close with my whole family, and my son, who was probably like 13 or 14 at the time, he got a little bit, he came home one day and he said, I can't stop thinking about Seth. And I'm having trouble concentrating in school. And so I was like, okay, write down. I actually told him to write a letter to Seth's mom and explain what you miss about him, what you loved about him, and all that. And he did it. And after that, he never talked to me about it again. And, that's been a long time now. But I think that letting those things out somehow is very beneficial. And I think when you don't let those things out, when you keep them in, it can turn bad. But to your original question is, what is the spark? Yeah, I think that's a mysterious thing, because I think it's sort of like the fact that we can't create life. We can put all those chemicals together, but you can't make that cell start to split and divide and turn into a baby. Like it doesn't work. As much as we know exactly what's in there, we can't make that happen. And so I think that's probably why it's so valuable. And this is actually something that I've had a change in heart of over the last year. And that is, I used to tell people, and I still do, and this is still accurate, is that a good idea, I'll say, if you have a good idea but you don't execute, that idea means nothing, right? I've said that to a million people, because it's true. Like, you can have the best idea for a song or a book or an invention. If you don't do anything with it, it doesn't matter. No one cares. But the other end of the spectrum is that idea, if it's a good idea, has value because no one can manufacture it. You can't manufacture Inspirato. Have you ever watched Tenacious D before?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that one episode on HBO where they're like, they have to come up with a new song, and for the place where they play open mic night, Echo Charles.
Hell yeah.
The manager there, is like, yeah, you guys can play again, but you need a new song. And so they go, okay. So they have a week to write a new song, and they're trying to manufacture Inspirato. And guess what, Echo Charles?
It's hard.
You can't do it.
Can't do
no,
it.
you not. It's hard.
Straight up, can't do it. Can't do it.
Can't do it. So, did anyone after your first song came out was like, all right, make more of those songs? They had to.
Yeah. Well, the timeline of events with the songs was really that all those other songs were already uploaded from my phone through DistroKid, which is just like a service that anybody can use to upload to Spotify, Pandora, Apple. It's like there's a few other services beside DistroKid, but in the modern age, you don't need anyone to help you upload music. You can just do it right off of your phone. And so all of those songs were already there, and then Richmond came after the fact. Even funny enough, I had been stalking the guy from Radio WV for like 6 months because I knew if I could just get on that YouTube channel with the song, all I wanted to do was just quit my job. I was working I was on job sites all day in industrial plants and stuff, and like some of the stuff we talked about, like the Dodge reports and all that stuff was just driving me. I just wasn't what I wanted to do, and so my goal was, I had a nice little house that I bought. I had like maybe $15,000 in equity on. It was all I could do to buy the place, and my goal was for us to just get my family and go off grid somehow. I had kind of like fallen into that sort of thing like everybody else had. This was like 2017 when I first started pursuing this. So 2019, I sold our house. I bought some land with the little bit of equity I had, and we parked a camper on it. And
how long was a camper? How big?
It was a 27-foot.
Okay.
Now, at the time, I didn't have any kids. I didn't have custody of my oldest, and I didn't have the two little ones. So it was just me and my wife, and so it was pretty easy. But it got complicated really quick with kids and everything else. But all I wanted to do was I just didn't want to have to work a stupid job every day, and I wanted to be able to spend more time with my family and spend more time like being a real human being and not just get stuck in this cycle.
So how old are you when this is going down?
I'm 32 now, so it was like probably in my late 20s, And you got to think the moment when I realized that I needed to figure something out was when I was 19. I was working at this paper mill called Rock 10, which is now called West Rock, and there was a guy in there named Shane who he was working in the position that I had been hired for. He was on first shift and I was on third shift, but he had been working there 18 years and I was 19, and we were making basically the same amount of money. And I had a GED. I didn't have any real practical skill or anything, and I was like, I'm going to be Shane, like this is it. Like this is as far as I'm going to get. And so that was really that was my motive, was just to get out of that, to try to get out of that cycle.
But that was when you're 19?
Yeah.
But then you stayed in that cycle for how long?
Well, I worked when I had a bad accident there. I fell and I had a bad head injury. I was in the hospital for, I don't know how long. It was a big blur, but there was about a 6-month period where I could hardly walk. I just hit my head on concrete. I blacked out. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I passed out, I guess. We were working 12-hour shifts. Like, I wasn't getting enough sleep, It's like those, when you work, and like, I'm sure there's people that will comment on this that have been in that cycle, but when you're working, like at the time we were working 6 days a week, 12-hour shifts, because we were shorthanded, and it was third shift, and I wasn't getting enough sleep when I was at home, because it's hard to sleep during the day. You've got other things you got to do and all. And so like I was probably running on a few hours of sleep every night. And I can remember, on our 3 a.m. lunch shift, sometimes like you start to like see little, you're almost like starting to dream while you're awake, kind of
you
thing.
Definitely can have hallucinations.
So I think that's probably something. I don't know exactly what caused it, but I passed out at work, hit my head real bad, and there was about a period of 6 months where it was challenging to walk. Like I lost my equilibrium, and my short-term memory was just terrible. I had some like inflammation and stuff from the injury, and so that's when I got out of that plant work, and I ended up going into more into the construction industry. And my goal was just to keep working ourselves up the ladder just long enough until I could figure out something else I could do. Like we were looking at, I'd started to get goats. We were going to get into this land clearing business, and like people will rent goats out to clear their property with. And we were like, we had started to rent out campsites on Hip Camp. It's like this app like Airbnb where people would come out and camp on my land. And I was just trying to figure out whatever I could do to break out of that cycle where I didn't have to go work for somebody else every day, you know? So that was really my motivation with the music, was like, get the music out there, get it uploaded on DistroKid to where I had a tangible medium where people couldn't just steal the songs and go claim them as their own. And I would just try to get on Radio WV, get one little song on there, get 50,000 views from it, and then I could at least go to a bar and book a gig and be like, look, I'm on Radio WV. Like, it was just enough of a validation to where somebody would book me at a bar for $300, and I would be totally content doing that. That was the goal, you know.
What were you doing to Radio WV, or just tagging them, like calling
every
them,
post,
rending
I was
letters?
that guy, like, hey, look at my video, you know, like, and emailing him, and I looked up his business license on Manta and sent him a letter in the mail, and like I was doing everything I could do, and finally
that's called stalking, by the way.
It was I used the word stalking, yeah, but I just had this feeling if I could just, and I had no idea. I thought Radio WV was like an organization with like 20 people that worked there, and this guy Draven was just the owner or the manager or whatever. So anyway, I never forget.
Like this podcast.
Yeah, everything, you perceive things to be so much more complex than they really are, you know, because they're presented so well. You just assume there must be this huge team behind it. And so I never forget.
Did you have any success with the goats? Did you have any success with the camping on your land? Like, was any of that stuff?
Hip Camp was good. Yeah, it stayed packed.
So were you starting to see an opportunity to get out of your job that you didn't like besides music?
Well, it was a complicated situation because
aren't they all?
Because of my wife being in veterinary, she's a veterinary technician, and she had student loans from that, and so we were trying to get like all of her debt consolidated and get that was our, you know. But yeah, I think if we could have I think realistically in probably about a 5-year timeline, I could have gotten her debt paid off, and we could have lived. Could have lived off of just probably Hip Camp and a few other little things, and just been live very modest, you know.
Going back to when did you start playing guitar? How old were you?
So my grandma taught me GC and D when I was like a little kid.
Hell yeah.
Like I said, Randy Travis was her favorite, and she was in a little band in the 50s, I think, that played on the radio in Hopewell, Virginia, like in the little town where she grew up. And my grandma was like my, you know, like I've had a close relationship with my parents, but as far as family or just mentorship goes, it was it was her and my grandpa were like, they were it. Like, you know, they were like my idols, you know. So I wanted to be like them, and they were just. She was such a sweet woman. How old were you when you learned GCD? 5 or 6 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like early. We would do because a lot of the a lot of those like '90s country songs were 3 or 4 chords. They're real easy to play, and we would do a lot of like In the Garden and the first song I learned was 3 Wooden Crosses. That's just such a simple little song. I think it's like C, G, and a couple little chords. But yes, she got me into it early on, and it was just something that we did, something I just kind of did with her, just for fun, you know.
Did you keep playing when you were growing up?
Not really. The only time I can remember, really, I would goof off with it every 3 or 4 months or 6 months or something, just sitting around. But I never took it seriously. I did. I can remember when I was like 12 or 13. I thought I tried to do this thing called what do they call it? Colgate Country Showdown, and it was like this little lame like country singing competition thing, and I tried it twice and never made it past the first round. You know, I got roasted, so I just gave up on it. I was probably like 12 or something, and I didn't really do a whole lot else with it for a while.
Where was the Colgate Country Showdown?
Well, I think they happened all over the country. It was kind of like it was like a miniature. It was like the same concept as like American Idol almost.
And you got voted off the island quick?
It's funny. I can remember. It's so funny because.
Were you doing cover songs?
It was in. Yeah, you just played one song, and like 30 people would get up there and play a song, and they would, and the judges would vote, and there was always some little clean cut kid that they're like perfect, already in like their little country and western crap, and they always got it, and I was like, and I sucked, I didn't deserve to win it anyway, but I do remember back then, like I guess what I'm saying is I did probably have like that imaginative dream of going out and doing, you know, I didn't take it seriously back then.
So then when did you start playing guitar? Like, hey, I'm going to try and make a go at this.
Well, oddly enough, Brian, who you met, who's a friend of mine, I would go out and hang out with him like I didn't drink until after I was 21. I didn't touch alcohol until I had like a Bud Light Lime when I was like 2 months after turning 21. It was the nastiest thing ever. And so I didn't start to drink until maybe 23 or so. I had a friend of mine who was a welder who we hung out all the time, and he drank Guinness. So I started getting into drinking
Vitamin
Guinness.
G.
I was just slamming Guinness. Like I was a Guinness drinking machine. And so I met this guy, Brian, who I started to hang out with a lot. And he's the HOA president of the craziest neighborhood you've ever been in. And so like he was like it's a HOA neighborhood, but like the most partiest neighborhood. And it's a lot of military families and stuff. So I would go down there and they would have a guitar. And at some point I would pick it up drunk and just start playing songs in it. And like, that was probably like 2015 ish when we started to hang, or no, I think we met in probably a little bit after that, but somewhere in that window of time, it was just like getting drunk and playing at parties and people saying, oh, you're really, like I never forget, it's like, it was a running joke, but anytime I'd play, there was always some drunk old person that would be like, you got to get on American Idol, or like every time, like everybody was just like, man, you got to do something. There's this guy named David Moore who's like probably in his 60s, but I can remember, I jokingly to this day, I remember every time we were drunk hanging out, he'd always say, he said, Chris, you got to do something with that God-given talent of yours. Like he would get like this far from my face drunk, and I was drunk too. When you're drunk, everybody gets like this. He said, you got to do something with that God-given talent of yours, like all the time,
Yeah.
It sort of just evolved into that, and then
David was kind of like right about this whole thing.
And Brian and a few other people just kept pushing me, and I didn't have any original music really. I think the songwriting came. The songwriting is exactly what we talked about earlier. It was just a way for me to figure out how to take all of this and put it into words to where it made some kind of sense. And it was just like in the same way that you're talking about your son writing that letter. Mm-hmm. Like it's just I was just writing my letter, I guess. Mm-hmm. It's the same concept.
What kind of music were you into when you were a kid?
Really early on was like 90s country, and like I was obsessed with Tony Bennett when I was a little kid. Like obsessed. I love all that. Like I just love that swing of like that. And then when I got a little older, it was probably I listened to a ton of Stained and Shinedown and old country stuff. Like David Allan Coe, Merle Haggard, like just all that like old like Waylon Jennings. Yeah. Going back to my grandma, I can remember as a kid we used to watch Dukes of Hazzard like all the time, and so I'd see Waylon Jennings there with that little guitar, and in a lot of the episodes he wouldn't show his face because of the legal troubles and stuff. But that's what I kind of fell in love then with a lot of that. And
when I was a kid, my dad he got a used car. It was a 1973 Barracuda, and it was actually, if we had that car now, like it would be an epic muscle car. It was yellow with the stripe on it and everything.
Oh yeah,
and it had an 8-track player. And my dad liked country music because he went to college down in Texas, and he had one 8-track, and it was Hank Williams. It was, and so I to this day know every Hank Williams song, and that's why when I first heard you, I was like, oh, this dude sounds like freaking Hank Williams, Senior, but. So that's you. So you did have like a pretty good variety of music. Yeah. It wasn't like you were just raised on country western.
Yeah, no, it was just early '90s, and definitely Hank Senior, Junior, and the Third. I'll listen to like, all that stuff. Like it just, I'd say probably after the '90s, early 2000s, radio country just kind of started to go, and I just. Like, I don't listen to country at all. I haven't listened to a new country song that came out other than like Jamie Johnson and maybe a handful of others in years. Like, I don't care for it. I kind of joke and say it like, I don't know that I guess my music's in the country category, but I don't even like to think of that.
How'd you like my description of your music? What did I say? That was pretty good, right? Freaking, yeah. It's definitely unique. It's weird because it's unique music, but it still sounds familiar in a way. I don't know.
I'm really excited for you to hear the next. We just recorded. So I've only technically put two new songs since Richmond. Everything else, like basically the hymnal album was all the cell phone, the halfway put together cell phone versions, like in their complete format, because I just had to do that to at least get that done. Mm-hmm. Well, like I told you, I went from being Mr. and I still am Mr. Nobody, but just as far as like when I go out, I could go to Walmart and I could go to the gas station and all that, and everything was just, it was just normal. And so that original catalog of music was all I really wanted to complete. And then the next song, so basically there was Richmond, the Hymnal of a Troubled Man's Mind album, and then Cowboys and Sunsets. And Cowboys and Sunsets was like my goodbye song. And I was just going to get to the end of that tour and
call it.
Yeah. And I almost didn't get to the end of that tour. By the time the summer came, I was
ready to walk away, or like when you say you almost didn't make it to the end of the tour, what do you mean?
Man, I don't like I didn't go to concerts because I don't like big crowds. I get like, it's like somehow my mind, and I didn't used to be like this as a kid. Joe Rogan says that it's because we talked about this on camera and off, and he thinks a lot of it's from the head injury, but I hyper focus on everything. So if there's 100 people in front of me, my brain's trying to figure out what every single one of them's doing. Like it's just too much. That's why I like to just sit out in the woods by myself. It's like, it's just because it's somewhere where I don't have to, if that makes any sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't like big crowds. So like I would go see, I went and saw Incubus once, and and I've seen Jamie Johnson twice, I think. And the last time I saw Jamie Johnson, we had to leave after like 4 or 5 songs because I was just like freaking out. I couldn't be in the crowd. I just couldn't be in that crowd of people anymore. So now that I have to be the guy in front of the whole crowd, it's like, it's bad. I mean, I felt terrible at the Houston Rodeo when we did that because there was all these bull riders and stuff that I was supposed to, like, I guess, take pictures with and get to meet. And I wanted to meet all of them, and I met a lot of them after the fact. But I'm in the back room, like, and I'm not trying to be dramatic. It's funny to me now looking back on it, but I was literally vomiting and I was having a whole like, I didn't want to get in front of 60,000 people on some spinning stage. I was like that's like my worst nightmare. Like, just cut my legs off or something. Don't make me do that. I was terrified, just total fear. And these guys are just thinking I'm being a jerk, not wanting to, and like, I don't know, it's just tough. I can just think back to some of that, but I got about 3/4 of the way through it, like by the time the summer came, and I was just...
Wait, so how did you actually walk out on stage? When I used to train a lot, not a lot, but I trained MMA fighters, and there would be guys, Tito Ortiz, before you know who Tito Ortiz is? Mm-hmm. Before like a fight, he would be crying and throwing up. Like, he would be that freaked out, and he'd go win. I mean, he's obviously did great. When you're puking and crying because you have to go out on stage in front of 60,000 people, like, how do you overcome that? What'd you do?
I brought my kids along with me, and I would always just go sit with my kids and just think about that I had to do this for them. Uh-huh. And if I could just get through it if I could just suck it up for just 1 year and get through all this, like, at least I know they're going to be all right. Like, I can leave something for them. And like, it felt like I was just doing it for my kid. And then, but over time, but it's also, like I said, I read all these Facebook Messenger messages I get, and I read my fan mail, and like, I don't reply to all of them, but I do try to reply to a lot of them. And like, there's some really real shit people have told, like, and at these shows, like, I'll never forget when we went to Europe last year. We were at the first or the second show, and this guy who looks like he could just pick me up with one hand and throw me across the room, he was just sobbing and like hugging me, telling me about how he had lost his brother and going through sobriety and all these things, and just talking about how he related to the music and how it helped him so much. And just, I was like, dude, this is real life. Like, this isn't just some little moment. Like, this isn't just some little thing that I have to take this a little more serious. So it's a combination of things. But
were you when all this happened, were you already sober? Meaning, were you still drinking?
Right before. All right. So July of 23 is when there was a guy who messaged me on Facebook and said, "Hey, I know Draven Rife. We used to live together in Missouri." He's the guy that runs the Radio WV channel. He's like, "I can get y'all connected." So Draven texts me the next day, and then we talked for like less than a week, and it was like, so almost right before I'm trying to like relive this in my head because it's like all the things that have happened between now and then. But sometime in that June window is when I didn't drink. I had like a come to Jesus moment, so to speak, and I can vividly remember being on my property and I remember vividly telling God, like, or just saying out loud, like, "I'm sorry that I'm such a piece of shit, and if you can just find something for me to do, I'll go do it. Like, just give me a purpose, like, just give me something to do, like, and I'll, and it was like right after that happened. Well, the before Richmond, there was this song "Dog on It" that I put, and it did okay on TikTok. So 2 different A&R dudes hit me up. This guy named Sean Stevens and another one named Stefan Max, and they were both with like Warner or Republic or something. And this was before Richmond. I was still working my job, all that. I was so excited. I called everybody I knew and told them, "Dude, this guy from Warner Records." I was so excited. Like,
boy, if they would have signed you, they would have been like the heroes of the century for their companies, right? So
that was like almost right after saying, like almost within a week of that happened. So then you had a literal come to Jesus. Like, it wasn't like a come to Jesus, like actual, "Hey, God." It was just like I didn't know what. Yeah, it was just like I didn't know. Yeah, I just wanted to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do because I just didn't. I didn't know,
And that's what made you get sober. And how much were you drinking before that? Were you drinking every day?
Yeah, well, I make wine. So I have, it's not good to be, but I love making homemade wine. So like I would run it strong. I'd use the wine yeast that would go to 18%.
Full Duke's a hazard scenario.
Well, it's really easy to make, actually. It's like a lot of college. The reason I learned how to make wine actually, from this kid that went to George Washington University in DC when I used to go up there a lot when I was younger, like for stupid stuff, like, oh God, we're gonna open a whole can of worms up, but like protest stuff and all that when I was younger. And they'd call it hooch, which is why I named my white German Shepherd Hooch. Yeah. But hooch is like a slang word, I guess. What you do is you take Welch's grape juice and you pour a little bit out and you just add sugar and wine yeast and you put a balloon on the top and stick it in your closet. And within a month or so, less than a month, you've got wine that's like 17%. It's like an airlock, so it allows the gas to escape the bottle but not the contaminants to come in. So you can make like, it tastes like Welch's juice, but it's like 16-17% alcohol. So that's how I got into it. And then I started doing it with like fruit, and so I was making my own wine. So I'd go out when I get home from work. I'd have a lot of times I would just put it in I would just can it. I would just put it in mason jars, like the wine bottles with the corks and all that's just. So a lot of times it would just be in a jar, and I would drink at least 1 mason jar of that a night. Like I'd get just trash, like, it wouldn't take much. A jar and a half in, and you're like you're not at 18%. There's nothing left of you, even when you drink every day. So that was and the problem is that homemade wine doesn't give you a hangover like cheap liquor or anything else does. So like you can sort of get drunk on it every night and still wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go to work, and you're not like totally hungover, if that makes sense. So it was like, so between that and just smoking weed constantly, like being high at work and stuff, like pulling up at the job site and smoking before I go out to do what I'm doing, it was just like I was just constantly in this state of escapism because I felt like sober Chris didn't like the fact that I didn't feel like I just knew I wasn't the person that I was supposed to be or the person I could be. So it was just easy for me to just stay in that. It's like I almost just wanted to stay in that state, like that perpetual state of being. And so the drinking stopped.
And you did like cold turkey scenario? Like you stopped 100%? Mm-hmm. And was there withdrawals or anything like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, affirmative.
Physical withdrawals and also like just the temptation of it. Uh-huh. Like it was, it's like it was But you got to think, it all happened so quick that I didn't like. So all that happened, and then by the time July came, the doggone it thing happened. I started going to open mics to try to figure out, because you got to think I'd never played on stage.
What did the A&M dudes tell you? Did they try and get you to sell your soul?
Well, at the time, I had 1,200 monthly listeners on Spotify and 10,000 followers on TikTok. I wasn't and I'd never played a gig before. Mm-hmm. But I'd been to open mics, but I wasn't like a real. So all they were trying to do was just like the one guy was trying to get me to. He worked with Zach Bryan, and they were. I remember vividly, they were in Oklahoma at the time, and he was trying to get me to come out and hang out with him and Zach Bryan and like ride the bus and all this stuff. And I felt like that was going to be like the initiation sequence to get me like stuck in. And I had this terrible gut feeling about it, and I wanted to do it so bad, but I just felt like I wasn't supposed to do it.
So you actually said no. So they dangled the carrot of Zach Bryan tour in front of you, and you were like,
I don't think I would have been able to tour. I don't think I would have been allowed to play with him. I think he just wanted me to come out and experience it and like spend a couple weeks isolated with them to where they could work out some kind of, and I think I would have probably gotten a really bad deal. Like they would have.
I was looking at a contract lately, and this initial contract that came from a group of people, and it was for all IP, intellectual property, Echo Charles.
Sure.
The contract was like all, and my lawyer, I said, hey dude, this says all. What do they mean by all? And he says all. And the thing is, if I wouldn't have had a lawyer look at it, but also if I would have been, if I didn't have a job or I was totally broke, I'd have been like, where's the pen? Let me sign that thing.
Because
and that's where they find people. Like, you're very lucky, because if you would have rolled down there, they'd have been like, all right, cool. Hey, you know what? All this can be yours, and plus we'll give you, $3,000 right now. And you'd be like, where's the pen? Mm-hmm. And you know what? They would have owned your soul.
We never got to any of that point in July talking about money or details. It was all very vague. It was like, and it was, like I said, I was thrilled by it. Like the guy, and he was very professional and polite, and I didn't have any bad feelings in that moment. It was just when they tried to get, like we had like a couple phone calls and emails back and forth before any of the bus stuff came. It was just like, he was telling me about how he was telling me the whole story about meeting Zach Bryan and how they were trying to get him out of the military to go to, like, he was telling me this whole story about Zach and how they like developed him, and who knows how much involvement he really had with Zach. Like, I don't know. I've never had the chance to meet Zach, and Zach Bryan's like on top of the world, so I don't even want to try to like, but I hate bother, like even you. I felt like guilty trying to reach out to you to say, hey, like, but it was easy for me to not want to drink, because now I had this thing. It was like I had this carrot I was chasing, and so I went to this open mic at this seafood restaurant. What was it called? I always joke because the place is out of business now, but the name of the restaurant is, I always joke and say that's what you say when you wake up the next morning from eating the food there. It's called I don't know. I'll remember it. It'll pop in my head in like 10 minutes. But that's where I met my guitar player, Joey, at. He was there. He never did open mics, but he was there trying this girl out to see if she would work for vocals for his band. The two of us met, and we're sitting there afterwards, and he liked what I had done at the open mic, and I liked what he did. And and that was the night I was supposed to get this phone call from Sean Stevens, or no, Stefan Max, the other guy. And I was like, look, this guy's going to call. Like, I was so excited.
Oh, yeah.
He wanted to quit his job. I wanted to quit my job. So that was our plan, was like, we were just going to do it. And then right after that, the guy from Missouri reached out, said he knew Draven from Radio WV. And like, that was it. I mean, it was like everything just fell into place as soon as it was almost, you talk about like a movie character, like we were talking about the main character, like people thinking they're the main character in a movie or whatever, but it was hard for me in that moment to not feel like that. It was like, it was supernatural the way everything fell together. And you got to understand, like, so that happened. I met Dre. I talked to Draven on the phone and texted back and forth. And Draven wasn't this guy that ran this big radio company. He was literally flagging on the side of the highway for his buddy's company. Like, he was on the side of the highway with a stop slow sign. Yeah. And I'm in a plant. We had to keep putting the phone down because we had shit to do, and we'd come back and get on the phone again. And so like that was on a Wednesday, and we recorded that weekend. And I wasn't going to record Richmond. I wanted him to record all my other songs. Richmond, I only had half of Richmond done. I posted the first half on TikTok, but I didn't have the rest of the song finished, like the whole second verse of it. So it was like this last minute thing of, we talked on a Wednesday. I finished writing the song. We recorded Saturday and Sunday. We recorded like 7 songs Saturday and Sunday, and I think he uploaded like maybe the next Wednesday.
What do you have, 2 cameras working? Like,
so Draven runs like a laptop, a little Scarlett Solo that you plug your guitar into with a microphone. And then he's got a camera. Usually what he'll do is he'll put a camera on back then, the original set of videos, we did 2 takes because he only had the 1 camera.
Okay.
So he would film me.
Because I was watching, I was like, oh, there's 2 cameras here because there's 2 different angles. So
yeah, well,
but he had to do it twice.
I don't want to tell. Well, yeah, we've upgraded a little bit since then, but at the time he only could. It was just the 1 camera. You know, he could it's expensive trying to buy all the stuff. So all of his sessions up to that point were 1 camera, and then like he would go back and have you play the song a second time just so he could film it from another angle, and then he would just cut the 2 together. Now there's 2. Now there's like another camera guy, and like a real mic stand that we don't have to have a cinder block sitting on so it'll fall over, and like things are like a little more proper now. But back then it was like, yeah, I had just quit the drinking and the weed, and he had just quit the weed. He didn't really drink, and the 2 of us smoked a CBG joint in that tent that I had on my property that night after we filmed Richmond, and we were like talking all about life and all these things we wanted to do, and like that man's like my brother now. Like we talk. Not every day, but we talk a few times a week.
Was he able to quit his job, Draven?
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
So, and we've kind of like...
Well, there's something like 150 million plays of that song. That right there is pretty good money, right, Echo Charles?
Yeah, well, and he had a few other good ones prior to that, too. That it was just like... For him to fall, he was also kind of at a point in his life. We both had a lot of parallels, and he had kind of had the same like come to Jesus type of thing. We were both at a point where we felt lost, and we felt like we didn't know what we were supposed to be doing with the rest of our lives. But we knew there was something we needed to do. We just hadn't taken it seriously enough to try to figure out what it was. But
when you're writing songs, so you were writing songs. Did you like mass produce songs once you got sober, or were those songs kind of already in the hopper?
They were already there. Yeah.
But that song you finished Richmond basically when you were sober because you wrote it that you finished it that day.
The second verse, yeah. We talked on Wednesday and we recorded Saturday, so I had like Thursday, Friday to try to finish that.
And how big of a channel was Radio WV?
It was big enough where I was stalking him. I mean, he had what was special,
but it wasn't big enough for him not to be flagging.
What's special about Draven? Well, what's special about Draven wasn't the size of his channel. It's Draven and the way that he. I don't know. If you look at some of his other recordings he had done prior to that, like Logan Halstead, for example, like just the way he's able to bring out like. There's this song Logan Halstead has, Dark Black Coal, and that's the best version of the song that you'll ever hear for the rest of your life. Logan can go record it a million more times, but you can just feel the, I don't know.
So Draven's like a good director.
Draven really cares is what it is. Like he's not in it for any other reason except that like he really like it's. We were talking about this because he helped me produce my album now. So we are like producing like real music now with full instruments and equipment and all that. We've invested into, we kind of have this dream now of like finding artists like the ones that he puts on Radio WV that don't have a following and figure out how can I take somebody like me? How can I find somebody like me who just kind of is brought into the space, and how do we keep them safe from like all the vultures, and how do we get their music recorded correctly, get them a good attorney that's not going to screw them over, help them with their publicist work and their social media and getting all their accounts verified. And like, you know, I had dudes claiming that they wrote all my songs. I had this guy, there was this guy in the UK that he had registered all of my work in Parliament for Canada, the UK, and Australia. I had to get an attorney to like take care of all that. Robert Beckley's his name, I think. And he was saying that he had wrote Richmond, north of Richmond, about this suburb that's like in London somewhere called Richmond. And like they had like how could, and my angel really was Jamie Johnson. Like he came, so after everything blew up, the farm market right down the road from where Brian was in the neighborhood.
So hold on. The reason I asked you about how big Radio WV is, you getting on Radio WV is not like, oh, now you're set for life. You know what I mean?
So I just knew if I could get on there, he would be able to record me in a way that I could go like. I don't know how to explain it. It was just like I knew I needed to get. I mean, I tried for over a year to get a hold of him.
But making it on the Radio V at the time wasn't like, for lack of a better word, like making it big time.
Not at all. No.
That's what I want to convey.
No, like I said, it was just like I said before, it was like if I could get on there and get 50 or 100,000 views, and it was just something. So like when I emailed all these bars and all these like, because you got to think like to just go play, like to give an example, like to just go play. To go play the little bar in Farmville or the one in Richmond or whatever, like there's a million people just like me who were trying to go book that for 3 hours for $300 a night. And I had no gigging experience. I had no equipment. I didn't really even know more than probably an hour worth of cover music if I was lucky. Cause I wasn't, you know what I mean? It's like, I didn't have anything to stand on, but I had put out like, I think Ain't Got a Dollar was the first one. And I had like maybe 3 or 4 songs. I Want to Go Home, a few of those. I just knew if I could get Radio WV to record a few of those and put them out there, then I could at least have something to show them. Right. Like, look, I've got 1,200 monthly listeners, and I got this song. Like, just let me come play your bar. Like that was what the goal was. You know, I just wanted to get away from my job. I was so miserable being there, and I just felt so stupid that I was just spending every day making people that I didn't like money and like wasting what little bit of valuable. Because life goes by so fast, man. Like you can just look in the mirror and just watch yourself age. It's just like, it just happens so fast. And I just didn't want to get stuck. You know, I just didn't want to get stuck being that. I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to be Shane. Like I didn't want to be that guy who was 60 years old. Like what else am I going to do? I can't do anything. Like I'm about stupid otherwise. It's not like I couldn't go and like, I can't figure out how to wire something as an electrician or do HVAC or, you know, it's like, I was just either going to be doing dumb labor jobs or I was going to be trying to figure out how to do something on my own, you know. And
so you record Saturday, Sunday. When does he upload it? Like,
I think it was like the next Wednesday. It was quick. I remember I went into work Monday, and the guy at work that I was real close with, I remember telling him like, dude, this song is either gonna. Because Draven was insistent that Richmond was the first one we put out, and I didn't want to I knew the song was controversial, and I didn't want him. He had already pressured me into recording it. Like I didn't even want to record it because I pictured, and I was telling him before we went on the camera, but the whole Oliver Anthony music thing was, you know, Christopher Lunsford couldn't upload Ain't Got a Dollar on YouTube because Christopher Lunsford is on Dodge Reports and on stuff where if you were to Google Christopher Lunsford, and that song pop up, like I'm not allowed to go into DuPont or Gerdau or any of these like facilities and plants on THC. They have like a THC policy. So I can't have a song about smoking weed. Like I would have lost my job. I've got 3 kids. I'd have been totally, so everything was under that name to kind of disguise myself anyway. And so just with that, you know, it's just, and it's so crazy now to go back and think about it all because this whole timeline of events led to us having that very first show at this little farm market right up the road from the neighborhood where I'd been getting drunk for years and hanging out with Brian and all them. And Jamie Johnson shows up who, like the whole mind bend of it all was just in the last couple months, I still have my truck from high school. It's a little 99 Tacoma, 5-speed manual. Like it was I bought it when I was 15. My dad helped me like put the down payment on it and all. And, you know, it's still got Jamie Johnson's CD in the CD player from like, it's like you just can't make it up, man. It's just. And,
so you were about to say when you rolled back into work. So it uploads.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so scatterbrained.
No,
it's just, this is a lot. It's a lot of like, I haven't talked about any of this since it happened. So it's like a lot, all that, like I'm just remembering all.
No, it's all good, bro.
Yeah, I remember I went back into work and I told him, I was like, dude, this song's talking about like Epstein Island and all this stuff. I was like, I'm totally losing my job. I was like, they're going to fire me like next week. And I'm just, in my mind, I'm picturing that the song is going to totally flop and I'm going to lose my job because of it. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm like panicking, freaking out. And I'll never forget right after he uploaded the song, he called me like right after it went up and it had like 1,000 views, if that, like not even that. And I was sitting in my parents' living room, and we played it on the TV, like with their Bluetooth speaker, like their TV speaker, their bar. And I called him back, and I was like, dude, I think we should take it down. I don't think it needs to be on there. And like, I was so scared. I was just so terrified of it being up. Like I don't know. This whole thing, even now, even with what I'm doing now, I'm terrified, like because I know what I'm doing, I need to do, but I know anytime, even if you're doing something that you feel like is right and something that you are called to do or supposed to do, sometimes it's hard to be brave when you don't want to. It's hard to, like, you know that there's consequences that are going to come with that. Like,
yeah,
you know that there's risk. There's always risk in anything you do. Like anything that has purpose behind it also sometimes has inherent risk. And I had to really figure out, do I really want to do this, or do I just want to keep working my stupid little job and try to get my debt paid off in 10 years and just, you know, like, do I want that song out?
How long did it take for the song to get traction? Didn't it get like 5 million views in 3 or 4 days or something like that?
Yeah, I don't really know the numbers because I didn't look at it, but I just remember looking at my TikTok account went like crazy all at once, like, because I still had my notifications turned on. You know, there's a ton of people, like if you look on my TikTok account now, I don't know how many people I follow, but I was following back everyone who followed me. And when they would message me, I would message them back. Like there's I still have friends now that I've now gotten to meet at shows and all, who were people I was talking to on TikTok, like before everything went crazy. But yeah, it was just like this little tight knit group I had on there. And then I was like, the phone was just dinging all day and going crazy. And then like people had somehow gotten my number, and I remember there was a guy from a booking agency who was trying to get me like that next weekend to go open for Hank Jr. and all this stuff. And I'm still at my job, you know, and I'm just like, what am I going to do? It all went nuts at one time. It really did. Yeah. And people at work were catching on to it. And when I'd go places, people were, and like, I don't know how long I worked. It was less than 2 weeks that I worked there before I quit. It was probably about a week and a half. I put in a 2-week notice, and I left on good terms actually with my boss. And it was really cool. So me and him are actually really cool now. And but he actually told me, he said, well, if you ever, because he didn't know, he had never even looked at it. He's like, well, if this doesn't work out and you need to come back, he's like, you have a job here.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so
solid.
Yeah. I was like, that's so cool, you know, that he, but it just all happened so fast. And
when did you realize, like, oh, okay, so it took you 2 weeks to quit your job, but you knew almost immediately, like, I can quit my job now?
Yeah, I think
go do this thing.
First 2 shows I remember for sure those first 2 little shows I did. It was Morris Farm. That was the one like Jamie showed up and all those people, the big crazy first show. And then when we did Eagle Creek the next weekend, I remember I was still at work then, but it was probably within about 2 weeks.
How many people came to Eagle Creek?
We don't know because they were free shows. I just showed up and played. But they estimated like 12,000 is what they thought was at the farm market show. So, and that farm market usually has like, up until then, it would have like a couple hundred people there at the most first. You know, it was a farm market on the way to the beach in North Carolina. It was just like this. But I'd been going to that farm market since I was a kid, and I was like sentimentally attached to it, and I just wanted that to be, I don't know, it just felt like the right place to do my very first show at. I don't know, but it was nuts. And we did a meet and greet after. I remember I was there for like 4 hours after the show, like meeting and that's when I don't know, I still can hear like what those people were telling me about. Like they were just so excited. Like that's the thing. Like it's not me at all. Like I was telling you before, dude, I'm trash. I know like 7 chords. A lot of those original songs I don't think even sounded all that. The new album that I got coming out is like the first piece of work that I've done where I'm like, man, this rocks. Like before that, I wasn't even a big fan of my own music. It was really just the fact that somebody came along that was saying, you got to think I had been working with like real people for my whole life in factories and going in the steel mills and the power plants and like the air conditioning factory I worked at. And even when I worked at McDonald's, it's like, it's hard for anyone to have real conversations with people when you can't just go to a job site and interview people and ask them about like what they're struggling with and like their finances and their depression and like what they're dealing with their wife and like how their company has screwed them over or how this policy that went into place will like affect the quality of life for them because of that. Like you get the real story from people when you're there with them and you're and like
You're part of the same ecosystem.
It was almost like maybe the only way that maybe that song was just inspired by a decade of just listening to everybody say like the exact same thing almost, like, and now to have been to Europe and Australia, and it's like almost the exact same. It's to your point earlier about, when you don't realize what other people are going through, but in many cases they're going through the exact same thing you're going through. But there is no hotline, especially like what is a 25-year-old guy supposed to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to call some hotline number and get put on some list? I'm not going to. I didn't feel like, even if I could find how do you even find a psychologist or a therapist to talk to, and how do you even trust him to talk about to talk about like these dark things that you're dealing with, and like, I don't know, we're so, again, in my mind, a lot of it goes back to the fact that we're just so immersed in this all day long. It's really difficult for us to have real conversation. And I think if anything proves it's the fact that people are willing to listen to people talk in front of a camera for 3.5 hours and be glued to every word of it. Like, people we are all so lonely, and we don't realize how lonely we all are. Like, go find an uncontacted tribe that is discovered and when they show even the way they live, which has no outside influence theoretically with the rest of the world. What do? They're all in these super tight knit communities, and they sing music all day long. Like it's not something that we're taught culturally. It's part of our operating system. Like, we need it, and that's what makes me so, like, I guess that's why I'm on this. That's why now I'm willing to risk all of it again, I guess, and go on this tangent that I'm going on to try to do something different. Because to me, like with music specifically, I look at like that music that I wrote that was crap, that was on my phone, and my guitar's out of tune and I'm out of key and the song's not in time, and like they just by every textbook definition, those songs suck. And if you go on the original I've Got to Get Sober YouTube video and look at the comments from where I'm sitting under the carport at my camper playing it, like, read those comments. Like, you can't make that up. Like, those people felt something out of that. And that's the kind of music that we need to be putting out. And but it's like with everything else, medicine, education, you name it, things that we really need, people have found a way to pry themselves in the middle of, and it's like a little toll road they set up, and they can collect a check every time, but they know
it's like a big toll road. Yeah.
They know people need it.
Yeah. Again, before we started recording, we were talking about some stuff, and one of the things I was saying is, I think one of the things, like what you just said, the appeal of your music is that people go, oh, other people feel the same way as I do. And this reminds me, I used to have like seeing new guys going out on missions in the SEAL teams. Like, a new guy, you could see he's real nervous before he goes out on his first mission. And I'd be like, dude, are you nervous? And of course they'd be like, no. But you go, hey man, well, you've gone to the bathroom 4 times in the last 15 minutes, so something's going on. And basically to say, hey dude, yep, it's totally normal. It's totally normal. You're going to be nervous. Of course, you're going to go out and freaking combat somebody's trying to kill you. That's fine. That's normal. And as soon as people realize, like, oh, okay, so what I'm feeling is the same as what a lot of people feel. And I think that, your music is, hey, what you're feeling right now, you got financial issues, you got freaking drama at work, you got the girls, causing problems, you're drunk again, like all these things, like, oh yeah, other people are going through these things. And I think that's very common. And then what you mentioned about, you being out of key and out of tune, your guitar's out of tune and all that stuff. I was talking, I have a company called Echelon Front where we do leadership consulting. Mm-hmm. And there's an opportunity, like, we speak to a lot of people. And there's an opportunity when you speak to people to clean things up to a point where it becomes sterile. And as we were kind of moving in that direction, a few years ago, I said, hey, who here listens to the White Stripes? And people are like, oh, maybe a little bit, whatever. And I said, because I heard this interview with Jack White from the White Stripes. Yeah. And he was talking about how when, like, a modern pop musician, when they make music, they sample like a snare drum. Yeah. And they'll hit it 100 times and they'll find the perfect snare hit. And then they'll take that, that snare hit, the hi-hat, the snare hit, the hi-hat, the crash cymbal. They'll take the perfect one that they want, and then they put it into the computer, and so every snare hit is absolutely perfect. And then they do the same thing with their guitar solos. Like they'll play that thing 13 times, and they'll make little adjustments. They'll get it to auto-tune. Like they do all these things. And so you hear something that's clinical and quote-unquote perfect, but going back to what we were talking about earlier, it's almost like it's not human anymore.
It's not.
So for you to be like, oh, this is just me. My guitar's a little out of tune. My voice is what my voice is, and you're going to have to deal with it. And people go, and they can feel that that's a human there. And that's so much more relatable than something that's been synthesized by a computer, in my opinion.
Yeah, so that's I agree with you. And that's my realization is that there are thousands of people who can do all of that better than me. And part of this drive that Draven and I have talked about with producing music is we want to do that for, like, there's a million more Oliver Anthony musics out there. Like I'm one of many that could just go and do that. Like it's just like, even with my own music. So this last album we just recorded, I've recorded it once in Nashville in November. And it was with two big producers who were very good, like good-hearted, nice dudes. And I'm not saying it's not anything negative about them when I say this, but we went into the studio. They brought all these Nashville recording dudes in and we just sat there and we did all the songs just so perfect. And then they went back and dubbed all this crap over it, trombones, vocal background singers, all these little all these weird little noises and all the stuff. And when I'm just being transparent, but I'm not proud of this, but when they sent me the songs back and I was listening to them, and I've still got my trusty blue Suburban that I was talking about on the Joe Rogan. At the time on the Joe Rogan podcast, it had just gotten dropped off the back of a rollback. And so the truck got totaled out, but I bought it back. So I'm still driving the turd. And I punched the radio out on it when I listened to the first song, because they wouldn't let me listen to any of the rough mixes. They were like, no, give us a few weeks. We want to. A month went by, and they sent me these fully mastered mixed songs, and they were terrible. They were that. They were perfect little, and then it just, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know what, I just felt violated by it almost, but I was so upset that I just like punched the radio. And luckily you can buy a radio for a 2007 Suburban for like $50. So it ain't like, it wasn't really an expensive mistake, but I was like furious by it. So we just literally went, so Draven listened to them. We both agreed that they all sucked. So I walked away from the project and we went and bought all the equipment that we needed.
Now, how did you walk? You can't walk away from a project. That's got to be freaking legally complicated. Well, I assume.
I don't do contracts. I just do handshakes. And I'll cover all the costs associated with the original recording. I'm going to lose, I'll lose $50,000 or something, but I'm not going to put a song out that's not my song either,
Yeah, I don't like the sounds of any of what you said.
And they were trying to bully me, like they were sending emails to my attorney, like that weren't very nice. Like they weren't being very nice, I guess is all. It wasn't them; it was their attorney not being nice to my. So Draven and I talked about it, and we were like, well, let's just try to do it again and just see what it sounds like, and if it's better, we'll just go with let's just do it. Let's just go back to doing it the way we did everything else, and. So we bought all this equipment. This was just a couple weeks ago. This was I can't remember the dates, but it was literally like 2 weeks ago. We just went and recorded all this at my house, and I've got a little place just north of Bluefield, West Virginia now, where I stay most of the time. And we brought everybody in. It snowed like 6 inches. The power went out, so we're literally in my house. Luckily, I got a wood stove in the house, but we're literally in the house with the whole band. We got every room is set up with something. So the fiddle's in the one bedroom. I'm in the other bedroom. The drums are in the basement. We just recorded the whole album in my house, and it sounds so much better than the original. Like it is so real and vibrant and chaotic, and like, there's probably one of the first songs off of it that I'll put out is well, like when you get to the solo parts, there's a part where I wanted I wanted the solo to feel like the emotions that I'm feeling in the lyrics. So it's like, it's anxiety at the beginning and then it builds into anger. And so it's like just this most chaotic solo that it goes through, that the fiddle and the guitar go back and forth on. And you would never be able to replicate that, having them go back and play over me. You would never overdub that.
Are you playing lead?
For lead
guitar? Hell yeah.
Well, yeah, Joey does like the crazy. I'm usually just rhythm and slide stuff, and he's like he
does the solos.
He does the solo stuff, yeah. But it's
when's the album coming out?
I have no idea. I'll probably just start dumping. Well, that's the thing now. Like I don't have a management company. I don't have a publicist. It's just like whatever. It's just me. I'll just I don't know, like that. Usually there's this whole, in music, when new music, that's part of what was so funny at the beginning with all the songs charting, is that like most songs to chart have a lot of money invested in them. Like, I don't know if you know, like I didn't know this until all this happened, but it's very common for a label to spend like up to $1 million buying their own song essentially on the chart, like to get it up to a certain level. There's a ton of marketing, and like it's a business like anything else. And so but with these, we'll come up with some kind of release strategy, and we'll put them out probably in the next. There'll be a song out within a month for sure, the first one, and then we'll just, because I've only put two new songs out since Richmond, and I did that because, like I said, I thought it was just going to be kind of done and over with, and it's like I tried to let the flame die out, and it didn't, and I realized that like I was being really, I had this moment not that long ago, and it was around the time that we had to put Hooch down, and I realized like, man, I'm really fucking up not doing this. Like I went back and I remembered. It's like I just kind of forgot for a minute about how everything had happened up to that point, and like what I had told God that I was going to do at the beginning, And like here I am, it's like I just felt like such a coward. It's like, here you are, you've made your $3 or $4 million, and you can just go live your stupid little life in the woods, and like what a coward I am, like Jonah and the whale, like running away from what I'm supposed to do. And so yeah, it's just, I don't know. I had to walk away from a lot of the professional companies that I was using, because I was trying to accomplish tasks with those companies that they almost physically couldn't do, because it would jeopardize relationships that they already have with the people that I'm effectively trying to compete against, if that makes sense, or trying to circumvent. I'm not trying to compete against them. This thing that I'm going to do is nonprofit.
It's another way. It's another way of doing it.
It's just another way of doing it. But it wasn't like they were even being malicious, I don't think. I think it was just that they couldn't do it because they had other business arrangements that were prioritized over mine,
How long was it? I'm wondering how long it takes for Vultures to attack. How long was it when Richmond came out? How long did it take before you got like a phone call of someone saying, "Hey, I'm a big studio exec"?
Oh, the president of record labels were at the first show. Like I don't want to speak out of context. I don't remember. I don't know what his job role, but there was big, very high level people from Republic and Warner and a few of the other ones at the very first show that Jamie was at.
Do they give you an offer on the spot? Are they like walking up to you like, "Hey, I'm going to make your dreams come true. No. Here's a check. What does this need to be?" Is it that kind of thing?
Well, there was only one that gave me a verbal amount of what an advance would be off the get. A lot of them just wanted to. They were all very polite. They're just like sales representatives, is all they are. So, I never. There was a few offers that went out. Like basically what they'll do is they'll offer you in advance, which is just, it's like what it is it's just a loan more or less. They'll give you $3 million up front, but then they own your intellectual, and they're going to make all that money off the back end. And then like that album that I recorded in Nashville, I would have had to put that out. Like I wouldn't have had a choice. They would have owned it, Then this whole catalog of music's going to be out for the rest of my life that I don't even want out. Like that'd be torture to me. Like, and that happens to a lot. There's a lot, and there's other artists that have spoken out about how that's happened to them, but it's a common, it's not like any of it. That's the story
of, did you know that story? Like I've always known that story, that guys like Meatloaf, Meatloaf?
Yeah.
Like Meatloaf, he made however many albums, and the original album Meatloaf was such a huge, massive, like triple platinum, whatever, and he didn't make any money from it because somebody came and he signed some contract that said, what do we own? We own it all. And there's a bunch of stories like that with people getting screwed over. I
would have gotten screwed if Jamie Johnson wouldn't have come to the first show. And you got to understand, I quit my job, but it takes 90 to 120 days to start getting paid for digital streaming sales. Yeah. So I didn't get a check off of Richmond until like around Christmas time was when I got my first check. So I'd quit my job. We had like a few $1,000s saved up. The first two shows I did were free. So I had no cash flow coming in. I didn't have nothing. And then, yeah, people are, it was easy for people to throw money around. So, but right out the gate, what he did was he got me in contact with his attorney, and his attorney was really cool. He didn't make me pay a dime until I started having, like, he worked for me for free for basically 3 months. But if I hadn't had that attorney, man, like, I mean, I just want to tell the story. So, like, this isn't, I don't even want to say this on a podcast, but I do want to just, I want like people to understand like how psyched out I got from the very beginning. But I had a relative who owns a couple small businesses. Like, he offered at the we're family, and he offered to help me set all of my register. I didn't have any of my songs registered. Like I said, that's how that Robert Beckley guy or whatever was able to get me in the UK. I didn't have anything trademarked. I had the uploads from DistroKid, thank God. That was the only thing I had. But I didn't have anything actually registered. I didn't have any of my music published officially, and he went and set all that up for me, but he made himself 3% owner of all my intellectual property when he did it. And he said he had to do that in order to sign things on my behalf, but he would take it back off, but then he wouldn't take it off. So like that same attorney from Jamie like saved me even from my own family, like one of my own relatives ripping me off. And like that was within the first 2 months. So like how am I supposed to trust anybody then? Like if that's it just. Yeah. And like I don't know, I've matured a lot from this, even thinking about freaking out at those shows and stuff. Like I've just, this whole thing is just, if there's one thing that I've learned from all of it is like everyone speaks about it. You've spoken about it in Jordan Peterson and other things, but like the only way to overcome fear and develop yourself is to face it, you know? And I can say that I am a much better person right now than I was a year ago from having gone through, like, it does in the long run, as long as you can just maintain enough of a level of discernment to not fall into a pit. And if you're just able to just figure out how to get through it, there is a huge reward at the other side of it. Like there's wisdom now that I would have never been able to have if I hadn't went through those things. But
yeah, no, I'm very impressed and surprised in the fact that, like, I can't imagine the money that people were offering you as an advance to say, hey, just sign this dotted line right here and you don't have to worry about anything else, and just go ahead and sign this, and here you are, you just quit your job. Like the fact that you came out of that in the position you're in where you didn't sign those things, you don't, nobody owns you or your intellectual property is freaking amazing. So then where did it go from there? So now you need money at some point. Did you guys just set up a tour? How did that work?
So Brian was like, all these emails and offers were coming, like, for doing different gigs and stuff. And so like we just went and took some like sketchy gigs without really knowing what we were doing. And like there was this one bluegrass festival I did in Kentucky where they like just gave me a briefcase full of cash for doing the show. Like it was the Wild West for the whole fall, but it was enough money to where I could pay everybody and just have enough to get by on. And then I think, like I said, the first check from Richmond came through. Like the first big transfer came over from DistroKid in December, and I didn't even know what to do with it. I was able to get a hold of the guy who was the president of DistroKid. I think he's just now on the board now, but I was able, I got his cell phone number and called him and told him, don't give this money to anybody unless, like, I was afraid somebody was going to hack into my DistroKid account and like take the money out. And you got to think, man, I was making $80,000 a year, and that first check that came in was like 800 something. Damn. Like it was a paralyzing amount of, like, it wasn't money that I didn't know what to do. I was I was paralyzed in fear from it, like, and
that's from everything from Spotify, from Apple.
That's from digital streaming. Yeah.
All digital streaming.
Well, since I write all my own songs, and technically I'm the label, and technically I'm able to collect from all those different avenues. So it is, so like most artists make their money touring, but I actually made just as much money off streaming last year as I did touring. Just and part of that's also because I was running my tour at the lowest margin I could, to where I knew where I wasn't gonna lose. Like, I don't know who does. I wanted a $25 ticket option because I knew what it was like to not only not have any money, but probably have $3,000 on a credit card Like, there's people out there who are not only broke, they're broke and upside down.
Yeah.
They don't have $200 to go watch a show. And what, like, if anybody needs to go see music, it's the guy who's got $3,000 in credit card debt. It's not the dude that's got $1 million in the bank. So, like, and people thought I was just a dumbass for doing $25 tickets. Even the professional people were just thinking it was so stupid. And I was just, but man, there's been so many times where I've, like, doing the meet and greets after the shows where there was people who came up and you could tell, like, they didn't have any money. Like, they're not people that would go to like, their kids were in rough looking clothes and they were in like a beater ass car, but they were there and they were like,
they were pumped.
They were, yeah. and in cases, like, I don't know. I've never seen so many adults cry as I've seen in the last, like, I don't know. Like, I've never had, I don't know. You know, Jordan Peterson talked about this one time a long time ago, and I didn't understand what he meant until now I'm in this position. But Jordan was talking about, like, he may have used the word burden, but it's not a burden to me. But just when another grown person comes to you as a complete stranger and tells you things that they probably have never told anybody else, even their partner or any, like. And they get in that emotional state and they're telling you that and they trust you with that. You'd have to be a psychopath to not carry that a little bit yourself and to not feel obligated to try to make some kind of, I don't know. Like, I don't know how you're not supposed to, like, I still think about some of those people that I talk to. Like, I don't know. They're normal. A lot of them are like big, tough guys that you would never even think had a care in the world. And they're like, they're one more bad day away from just wanting to end all, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. Then you're doing that. How many, what was your touring schedule like? How often were you playing?
Well, so I used you. So what happened was I was with Brian and we were just like cash suitcasing our shows and like winging it. And that worked up until there was one gig we went to book at a place, and every show has a contract you sign before the tickets go on sale, and that way I can see like what the tickets are going to be sold out. It has like the payout of what the show will do, estimated costs, what I'm going to make, what the venue's going to make, all that kind of stuff. Well, we had a show that they sent a contract proposal over. It never got signed. I never agreed to do the show, but somehow the show still got put on sale. And tickets were getting sold at like this crazy price that was never agreed upon. And so after that, I realized like, I got to find somebody who knows what they're doing to handle this. And my attorney was you're going to just get burnt. You got to have somebody in the middle that understands how, like, it's surprisingly complicated. That's why I want to do this thing I'm trying to do. Cause it's right now, like, just even to be an artist and book a show is like, you got to have an attorney to do it basically, or a professional agency doing it for you. Like it's a lot of, those contracts are like very complex, you know, and 'cause there's a lot of money at stake. And, so I ended up getting a booking agency and they helped me put that tour together for this past year. So it was like, it was a lot of weekend runs, which this year, when I go out and do runs this year, I'll probably do them more 2 or 3 weeks. Like we'll go out, we're going to do a big West Coast tour for 2025. So we'll be on the road for over a month in a bus. You know, I've got like a 2-week run in Canada we're planning. So we'll be in Canada for like 2 weeks on a bus. Same way with, you know, this Europe is going to be a month-long run, and Australia will be 2 weeks. Like I'm trying to do them more where they're not. A lot of artists that tour out of Nashville, my understanding is Nashville's a little more centrally located. You can go out and do weekend runs that way, but my whole band's in Virginia. The only person that I have out of Nashville is my fiddle player, Billy Contreras. Everybody else is just people that live. They're all people I knew from before, you know, the rest of them. So it's hard to leave out of Virginia, go do 2 shows in Michigan and Missouri or something. It was like we were just all over the place, you know, home for 3 days and then right back out again. It wasn't very effective the way it was kind of inefficient the way we ran around this year. And I also didn't have a lot of control over it because all the venues have waiting lists basically. Like if you want to play Red Rocks, for example, Red Rocks is an extreme example, but just the one that comes to mind, like any of the venues usually already have a couple people in line. So like when you want to book, like if I wanted to go play the Pittsburgh Amphitheater again, there's probably 3 or 4 people that have it who are already in line for like every available date, especially on the weekends. So it's kind of like there's a lot more demand than there is supply right now in the venue world, I would say, from what I've observed, at least at the level, at the size venues I'm playing. Like like I'm not doing any big, the biggest shows I'll do is like 10,000 seats or something like that, you know?
How many gigs did you do on tour that first like run? Like how many shows did you do?
I don't even know.
Was it like 20 or was it like 100?
It was like... In 2020, I don't know how many shows we did in 2024, but it had to have been probably like 50, more than 50, I'd say.
Well, when you walk out like on stage and you're all freaking, you don't like people.
Well, I love the people. Well,
but I'm saying like that's just got to be the craziest feeling when you walk out or when you have 10,000 people singing the words to your songs. That's got to be a pretty freaking crazy thing for you.
Yeah, like the first one I I couldn't believe in it that even at that very first show we did, right, which is right after, it's within 2 weeks of Richmond blowing up. Of course, those people who went back and listened to all the other songs, but even at the very first show, everyone there knew almost every song, and I was like, that's when and that kept happening. And that's when it started to realize that this wasn't just going to go away like in the next few minutes, which I would, like I said, I was kind of like, I don't know what I was thinking. Part of me is just, it was mostly fear based, but part of me just kind of wanted it to go away because I just didn't know what to,
Yeah.
I just didn't know what to do.
Did you get more used to it?
Now I'm okay with it. Yeah. Now it's like, I'm still terrified before I go out there, but, it's not like that. Like the Houston Rodeo was the worst, probably one of the worst ones. And you can watch, like if you watch the Houston Rodeo.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you played the guitar at Brian's parties, like on the block or whatever.
Yeah.
But as far as you missed an entire maturing process as an artist of doing like, I'm playing a club with 100 people.
The first paid gig was, and technically it wasn't, I think they gave me like $1,000 just to cover my costs, but that Morris Farm show, that was technically my first gig. Like that was my first official gig, and that was 12,000 people
that know the words to all your songs. You see what I'm saying? That's a weird place to go from.
But the shows isn't where it's so weird. It's the everyday real life. It's the like so Labor Day weekend, every Labor Day weekend, I invite a bunch of people to my property, and we all camp out and ride 4-wheelers and shoot guns and just fellowship stuff. And I had to go to Farmville Walmart to get hot dogs and like some other crap, And this is right after I've been in that Walmart 1,000 times, but that time the store manager had to come out and shake my hand, and I had to take all these pictures, and people were following me out in the parking lot, and like that's when it's like that's the part that feels weird. Not so much the show. The shows aren't so weird feeling. It's it's like the rest of it. It's like, and I forget, like I said, I'll go stay at our farm for a couple weeks and work on stuff. And, I know, of course, that all this music stuff's going on, and I'm involved in it, and I'm having to like get on conference calls and emails and stuff. But I'm just able to be Chris. And then I go out and try to get gas, and I'm like, oh man, it's like I almost like it. Like, I don't know. It's almost like, it almost feels like sometimes I'm like a fugitive on the run or something. Like I've always got to, cause you just don't know. And like, there's like you were talking about earlier about people waiting outside of that guy's apartment to take pictures with him. It's kind of like sometimes you just 90% of the time they're like a lot of times you walk away from those conversations better than you were before you start. Like a lot of times it's a very rewarding thing, but every once in a while it's a malicious thing, or it's like I don't know. Sometimes people are just weird. They're just like stalkers,
Yeah.
Like, and it's not good. Like you.
Yeah, and you're not blending in too. Because how tall are you?
Well, my running joke is that I'm 5'11" on Wikipedia, but I'm probably like 6. I think my driver's license says 6'6", so I'm probably like really 6'5" or something. I don't know.
So 6'5", freaking bright red hair, bright orange beard. Like you're not blending in anywhere. Like people are going to identify you from long range.
The shows is, the thing at the shows that's crazy. The one thing so like imagine doing the show, being on stage for an hour and 45 minutes in front of 5,000 or 10,000 people. And then especially towards the end of the show, that's when we really get connected, because there's a lot of times towards the end of the show, I'll read something out of scripture, and like we'll do a couple of the more serious songs, and then usually Richmond, and then we might do an encore after Richmond. But Richmond's always like Richmond and I Want to Go Home and maybe a couple others. Everybody's always really into them, so you feel this connection with like thousands of people at one time, and then everything goes away, and you're just like going to take a shower in the locker room before you go to leave to go, and it's like you go from all that to being by yourself. That is an interesting feeling. Like that's something that you don't know. That's a feeling you wouldn't experience otherwise.
There's
like
no way for a normal person to experience that. Was it feel lonely, like empty, gratified, satisfied? Like what's the vibe when you're sitting alone in the bus after you just freaking made 10,000 people cry?
Well, part of it, I feel hopeful for the future, that because when you're with thousands of people who you feel like are just normal, everyday people who aren't like I said, that's why like anything sports or anything is so captivating to people, or why people will go pay $300 a ticket to go to a Zach Bryan concert, because they're in an amphitheater with 60,000 other people or whatever who feel the same way they do. At least they all have something in common. Mm-hmm. Where, like I said, like in a world where it seems like everybody's on end with each other and angry about something, like again, it goes back to like the same reason why tribes sing music together and are so close. There's certainly a very rewarding experience to be able to be a part of that. But I always just feel like I'm a part of it. I never really feel like I'm the guy on stage, I guess. I just feel like I'm experiencing this moment with all those other people. Mm. Like I don't ever feel like I'm the guy on the stage, I guess. And it's a weird feeling, but the loneliness is like I said, the difficulty, the challenging part comes when you're not at the shows. Like I said, every relationship you have changes, because even though I'm Christopher Lunsford, my friends, my family, my neighbors, the people I've known 15 years, new people I meet, like I'm Oliver Anthony to them. Even if I am just still Chris to them, I'm different, And it's kind of the same thing like they talk about. You read about people who win the lottery and then like their whole life falls apart because everybody treats them different. Everybody wants something from them. And it's not necessarily anybody wants it. Like, I'm not saying it like that, but it's just like, to me, this Oliver Anthony music thing is like a project that I'm working on. It's not me. Like, I'm not Oliver Anthony, I'm not like, I'm just some guy. Like I'm just that guy that wrote that song, and I have a million other parts of my life that can, like, you'd be surprised how little of the actual music space occupies my head on a daily basis. Like there's a lot of other things. Of course, a lot of them have been enabled now because of that music project that I'm working on, but it's not like I live in that world all the time either. So it's been challenging. Like I said, it's been challenging recentering myself in my relationships with people. And because it's like I'm almost it's like I'm in a different reality. Mm-hmm. Like everyone's my social interaction, the way I engage with people, the things we talk about, like it's all it's just been a learning curve. But
it's like you're in a new environment that you got to adapt to. Like that's just the reality.
And that was that whole process last year. Like I fell apart last year. I gained. I was up to 280 pounds. I was anxious all the time, like just wasn't getting any sleep, just taking terrible care of myself. Like I said, I was just like in the whirlwind of it. And now it's like I can, like the last 2 or 3 months, I've been, working out every other day and running and eating right. I'm down to like 245 pounds. I'm getting my head right again. Like I've got this whole mission that I'm on now with this thing this year, and just I'm through it. Like, but it was definitely, but again, coming out on the other side of it, I'm a much better person than I was before it. And I feel like now I can take on the world, and I can do all these things that I wanted to do back then. I just had to I had to mature it was like, I don't know, Draven and I both joke about it because he's went through a lot of transition in his life now because of what happened. But we're trying to be men now, we were just, we weren't men before. I don't know. We weren't like, we hadn't like accepted. There's a certain part in your life, and I guess for you, like that's probably the beauty of enlisting in the military, is like it helps you get there quicker. But without that guidance and discipline, and without that sense of purpose, there's people who are 50 years old who are still just boys. Like there's like I don't know. I'm not well spoken enough to be able to like, but I guess you know what I'm saying.
No, I know 100% what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's very, because I've explained that or thought about that before from the military perspective. Is like, it's awesome because you enlist in the military and you are now a productive, self-efficient member of society, self-sufficient member of society. Like you have medical coverage, you have a paycheck, you have a place to live, and you have food, which is actually huge. Like having all those things organized when you're 18 years old is pretty impressive. So yeah, for a normal person that doesn't do that, they got to go out and make all those things happen. It can be a lot harder to become a self-sufficient human. And what you're talking about is like when you're avoiding being a self-sufficient, productive human, you can put that off for a long time. And it sounds like what the place that you were at was like, oh, I know I'm not the self-sufficient human I should be. I'm going to cover up that with, some homemade wine.
There's people though that, like in my case, I was 18, working a full-time job. I had my own apartment I was renting. I even had some money put away and all. Like there was never a time, if you looked at me on a textbook, that my life was necessarily like that. I wasn't, but it was just that I wasn't. I was just doing what I needed to do to pay the bills, and I wasn't pursuing it's like I wasn't fulfilling whatever my purpose was. Like I think
it's like you were treading water.
Exactly.
So your head's above water, but you're not making any progress.
But most all of us do for a long time. Like everyone I know that works a job like that, they have something like, this goes back to just watching you and Jordan Peterson videos and other things, but you realize at a certain point in your life, like that we all have this great idea. Like we all have this spark, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, we all have this spark that we can light and ignite and run with. And, people have the most brilliant ideas, but all they do their whole life is just talk about the ideas. Yeah. They never actually, it's terrifying to move forward. It's terrifying to move forward with what you believe your purpose is, because then if you fail, then what are you going to do? It's easier to just be a failure and just accept it and mask it with whatever it is. If it's food, like for me, definitely if it's, before it was alcohol that I got masked with, but then it's like, if it's not alcohol, it's food, it's porn, it's gambling, or just not managing your money correctly and just buying a bunch of shit you don't need to fill that. It's like there's all whatever it is, everybody's got that void. It seems like, and I don't know, but we all certainly have a spark. We all certainly have the capability to create a better place. And I think my vision is like finding a way to get all those sparks together and get all those people connected, like in the real world, and not like we're never gonna accomplish real change in this world, and we're never gonna really address all of these problems that we endlessly complain about if we just keep going on X and Reddit and Facebook and Instagram and talking. We can talk about it until we're black and blue in the face, but it's like, I don't know. I think you just got to get all, like those people just need to get together in person. And the only way I can conceptualize, the only thing that I can think, and it goes back to the theory with the uncontacted tribes, but I don't care what uncontacted tribe you go visit. I'm sure music and food are on the list of things that they do. And I think universally, like our operating system, my joke now is that if you don't like music or food, you're probably a robot. And so, everybody eats and everybody listens to some kind of music. So I have this vision of creating these spaces, this network, this like, this web of these spaces where there is like genuine music without backing tracks, because going back to what you said about in the studio with everything being perfected, like it happens on like, and it's bad, it's bad, but it happens more than not probably, like because the labels, they want everything to sound perfect. And I understand, and they're more worried about putting on a production than those people listening to real music. And it makes me my blood it made my blood boil because I've heard it 3 or 4 times now. But when I was talking to people in the professional space about the backing tracks and the drum loops and like some of the vocal augmentation and some of the other things that's like common, like it's common practice at festival series and even with big bands and stuff. Oh, well, they don't know the difference anyway. They just, they want to hear it that way. And it's like, I don't think they do. I think they want to,
they don't.
I think they want to hear, like they're they're there to do everything we talked about with music, like that power of music. And so,
well, otherwise just listen to the freaking MP3 or go watch the YouTube video. Like, no, you want to see a human do the thing and freaking connect.
Metallica is a great example because, if you look at any Metallica video on YouTube, there's a few people in the comments that are joking about how like they missed a few notes or like something about but like they're one of the most incredible bands of all time and still draw huge crowds because they get up there and they play the damn songs with real instruments, and they do mess up a little bit because they're human beings, and everybody like you're going there and you're really seeing Metallica.
Hell
like
yeah,
you want to see it. You want to see it with a few notes missed. Like that's it. Like that's the real thing, They're just one example of many of like there's a lot of great. So like how do you get real music into a place without all the augmentation and without all the thrills and all the frills? And how do you do it in a way that's affordable enough where the people who really do need that music, who are probably in most cases not financially well off doing it? Like I would love to see a study. I know there's no way to but like think about.
I don't know if we can do a study, but I can give you my opinion. That's for sure. I know Echo can chime in too.
I wonder how many people that go to concerts have credit card debt. It's probably 80%. Like I don't know.
Well, that's just America. That's just, I know. Yeah, that's just America. That's the unfortunate place that people get themselves to. It's like it happens, man. Like you going paycheck to paycheck, and all of a sudden it's Christmas time, and it's like you want to get that thing for your daughter. It's like, well, I'm gonna get that thing for my daughter. People just, it sucks. It's the reality.
Yeah, but there's some kind of way that we can. There is some kind of way that we can teach people how to be more financially responsible in real life. And there's ways that we can teach people skills still in real life. Like in my mind, well, they're actually getting taught the opposite, right? Because when they go on to Instagram, what they see is like an expensive watch. And they're like, okay, that's what I need is the expensive watch. Okay, let's get out my credit card and get the expensive watch. Instead of learning that, oh no, you don't need that expensive watch. You can just get a Timex and you'll be GTG. When I was 8, I dropped out of high school and moved to Western North Carolina, and that's where I had the kid at 18, and that's where I had the injury and all that. And that town that I lived in was one of the ones that was affected by the flood.
How come you dropped out of high school?
I don't know. It was halfway through my senior year. I just wanted to get. I don't know. I have this like impulsive thing sometimes. Like I have a problem with authority, I guess. Mm-hmm. Or especially back then. I mean, I still do, I guess, because I still can't fit in line.
Oh, you 100% don't guess here, man. You 100% got a problem with authority.
But I don't know. The thing that set me off was like I had this, my history teacher was like this. My history teacher acted like his shit didn't stink and was always, he ended up having an affair with one of the other teachers there, and it was this whole big thing. And they, like, I don't know. And there's a few other things to it too. But it was very impulsive. I dropped out of high school and basically ran away from. My parents didn't want me to leave, but I just, you know what I mean. I was just ready to get out of there and go. I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to graduate. I didn't want to go to college. I just wanted to go figure out who I was, I guess. I don't know. And I don't know. I didn't have a plan or anything. I was just an idiot. It's not like I'm saying I don't know that I'm even saying I made the right decision doing it, but yeah, there's no practical skills being taught to like I guess it was like, what am I going to get out of this? Like, and especially now, it's even worse now, but now like in public school, most of the kids, like I said, they're taught everything off of a tablet. Like a lot of it's already like predetermined curriculum, and it doesn't teach them how to manage money or like how to fix little things around. Like it doesn't teach them how to to do any of that stuff. It's like it almost, kids are very vulnerable when they go out into the world now. And that's why they are so easily preyed upon by like credit card debt and a lot of these other like influences from social media and stuff. And I think that we are the last species alive that knows what life was like before all of like kids were so much happier in school in the 2000s than they are now. Like just watch like there's tons of these videos where it shows like these old like retro camcorder videos of kids in school like in the early 2000s, and man, they were so vibrant and like they just had so much life in them. Mm-hmm. And now kids just seems, and I don't know, kids just seem so dead now inside. And so they're like, and there's studies. I mean, there's a I'm going to mess the title of the book up, but there's a book about the anxious. It's like it's about the anxious minds of youth. I don't know what the title of the book is, but in it, one of the things it refers to is like when they started adding front cameras to phones, like in that same year, like early teenage girls, their self-reported like self-harm and suicide rates shot. Like there's a direct correlation with youth anytime that technology advanced, and negative side effects with youth, whether it's like ADHD or if it's depression, suicide, like, and it negatively affects us as adults too. But now that it's went on for at least 2 generations and we're on to like the 3rd generation, you know, there was a study that was talked about on Andrew Huberman about how, like, I think the example given was, I'm just speaking out of thin air here, so I might miss something up, but our DNA and our sperm can change from life experience. Like if you were to have had a kid at 18 and then go off to war and experience trauma and come back and have another kid, the DNA in your sperm that develops that second kid, and to my understanding, is different than the first. Our experiences literally change the DNA in our sperm because it's almost like our body's way of protecting our, you know, it's a survival mechanism is all it is. And you read about things like the taxi drivers in London that have to memorize all the roads, and they can take an MRI scan of their brain before and after, and it's visibly different. And there's tons of other studies like this too.
I've seen one of cops with that, where like after a cop's been a cop for a long time, there's some part of your brain that like is signifies trust, and over time, like cops, they're just not trusting anybody anymore because constantly they're dealing with people that are, you know, trying to freaking screw them over and attack them or whatever.
So we should as a species, like this isn't even an American problem. This is like a global epidemic, but we should think about the average screen time that the average human person in the digitally connected world spends on their phone and their tablet and their computer. Like, that's changing us. It has to change us. If memorizing roadways in London changes us, or being a cop changes us, and it can literally change our DNA and stuff. Like, what does multi-generational digital immersion do for us as a species? Like, I fear that we'll come to a point soon if we aren't. We're so dependent on these phones. I bought a Verizon flip phone from Walmart like in November when I had to put my dog down. I didn't want to be on the phone. I didn't want to do conference. I just needed some time to like get my head straight. So I was pretty much on a flip phone for a couple months, and man, it was like quitting drinking. It was like that difficult, you know? Like, it's highly addictive. It regulates our mood. It regulates, like, when you get on YouTube Shorts and scroll for an hour, think about all the different things, all the different experiences your mind believes it's went through, and all the different levels that are affected by that. Like, the big ones we talk about is serotonin and dopamine, but there's all these different things that are, and so do that for 2 or 3 generations. Like, we're going to become, I believe, like, dependent on these devices in order for us to, you can see it all, like the writing's on the wall. Like, I believe that somebody smarter than me could look at most all the symptoms that we're currently experiencing in society that we're trying to fix. Like, all these things that have popped up in the last 20 years that are just destroying us and our like our households and our marriages and the way our kids and the way they, and it's like, it's obvious to me that our minds are, they're not made to be, they're made to live in the real world and be immersed in it. But as the real world continues to become more dim and dull and hopeless, and like, you know, it seems like so many people do have a very hopeless perspective right now about the future. And as the world becomes a more dull and dim place, the internet becomes more vibrant and exciting and immersive and real. And it's like we need that cognitive, we need like that attention and that time and that bandwidth that we're spending here. We need it here. Like the reason this is all falling apart is because we're all spending our time like.
Well, it's like junk food. I think you made this up, Echo Charles. Like it's just junk food, right? It's junk food for your brain, you know. And junk food tastes good and it feels really good at the moment, and you really like it. And after you have some fudge rounds like by the bags over and over again,
nice.
then actually like maybe a steak doesn't taste as good anymore. You know, even though that steak is the apex food to eat, now that you're addicted to the sugar with the fat on it, all encompassed with the flavor and the salt, they do everything perfectly in a fudge round. You're like, oh, this is all I want. Just pour it into my mouth. Just,
you know, I'm going. My brain's always all over the place. We'll go back. I'm not trying to deter, but real quick, because I laugh. I like the little fudge round thing in there. So I told you that I had to write the second verse of Richmond after I talked to Draven, and we had like 2 days to do it. So I was in the Dollar General on Hoffheimer Road in Dinwiddie, and buying stuff, and there was a lady in front of me who was like morbidly obese with her grandchild, and their whole cart was full of junk food. And that was one of the things in it was fudge rounds. And that's like where that verse, but it was funny because I had to go back and explain myself with that verse, because it wasn't like I was knocking that lady for buying all that junk food. It was just like, that lady has an EBT card, and like, this is all she can even, like, they just don't even, nobody teaches us even what to eat. Like, I guess that, like, even what to eat, we don't even really know. We don't really know what's in our food. Like, as soon as we started slaughtering our own pigs and meat birds and stuff and eating that food, and then go to Walmart and buy chicken, like Tyson chicken is not like, you'll never catch me eating Smithfield or Tyson again. Like, it's almost fake. But anyway, I thought that was funny. I wanted to just bring that up briefly, but in our, like, yeah, I think a lot of our dysfunction and a lot of the symptoms that we're experiencing are just simply because our minds cannot run long term on this system of like, and also it's more complex than that too, because with the introduction of AI, like we talked about, it's like these devices are learning. AI is learning from us as we stay so immersed in it. In theory, it's like if these phones do what they say, and you know, it's like, in theory, this like very intelligent operating system can watch simultaneously where millions and millions of people go, and where they eat, and how long they sit in a parking lot after they do this, and they're talking on the phone with like, it's able to study. It's almost like playing God. It's able to watch like the behaviors and the conversations and the thoughts almost of like millions of people simultaneously. So like I don't know, we're almost like, I don't know. I just don't believe that we can survive as a species unless we find a way. And the only way that we'll ever, like, you can ban TikTok, and you can demonopolize something else, and you can change porn, like Virginia changed the law so Pornhub, you have to be over 18 to get on the platform. What 13-year-old isn't going to just download a VPN and get on porn? Like, we're trying to like correct all these issues, like we're we're like the way a parent would try to discipline their child, and the child knows 10 ways to get around it. You know, like if
it's like the gun laws, when they make a gun law that says you can't have a quick reloading magazine, and so you got to put this thing on, and the gun makers go, okay, cool, here's a way to get around that thing that does the exact same thing. Yeah.
So we'll never fix it that way. Like we have to make the real world more appealing than Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And we have to find a way for people to be able to constructively talk about all these things that are important without just doing it on Reddit or on X. Like, so this year, like
So this is your thing.
So my thing
This is your thing right now. This is the Rural Revival Project, right? This is it.
Yeah, like it.
Which is also your tour, right? They're the same kind of, they're intertwined.
Yeah.
The Rural Revival Project and Oliver Anthony Music Tour, this go round, these things are kind of entwined. It's kind of a launch point. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, we've only done one show so far in Morgantown, and it was like last minute thrown together. So we've only officially done one show, but even at that, like, it was the best the best show I've done since all this happened was that Morgantown show. Like even even the way when I walked away from it, I felt better. Like I felt fulfilled from it. I mean, we like baptized people there and everything. It was crazy. It was like nuts. But yeah, I envision this. I want to take my platform and my audience and the people who also want change in the world, like who also have sent the people who have sent me all these messages that I've read, and like who like don't even like the fact. I just know we're in trouble if people are just are counting on some idiot like me to try to figure out how to make it. Like I know we're in trouble if somebody's like thinking that. But no, yeah, I'm gonna start finding these places to do shows that haven't had. I'm gonna find these towns, like instead of doing the Pittsburgh amphitheater, we're gonna find a city within 45 minutes or an hour of it, or a little town or whatever that hasn't had music or traffic or any kind of economic stimulus brought into it in 10 years or whatever, and I'm going to find these other bands and these other artists that I've met along the way, and I'm going to see because a lot of them are tired of the Live Nation Ticketmaster monopolies, and they're tired of like, and you see people on the internet all the time, musicians like, I mean, going back to Zach Bryan, I'm not trying to keep bringing him up, but like, I think he has an album or something about I think one of his albums or one of his tours or something was like negatively against like he doesn't like Ticketmaster either, and he's at the top of the ticket selling hierarchy. I want to create this festival series that it's a nonprofit, and it can end up becoming anything. It's just a model. Like there could be 10 other people to start a festival series too. And like, it doesn't just have to be this one, but it's going to a town within an hour of where the monopolized music venue is.
Are they going to be outdoors?
They'll be both. Like one of the ones we're looking at doing indoors is in Bramwell, West Virginia. It used to be a town with the most millionaires it was the town with the most millionaires in it, I think, in the whole country at one point, like coal millionaires.
Oh, okay.
It was a very rich town at one time in West Virginia, and now it's like totally dead. Like half the it's terrible what those. It's terrible poverty. Wyoming County, right beside it, is one of the poorest counties in the whole country right now. Like it's terrible.
That's from the coal mines getting shut down.
Yeah. So there's and drugs and everything else. It's just it's a comp, but. There's an old school there that's been closed for a while, and we're trying to set one up in May to do in the old gymnasium there. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that we could, like this gymnasium, for example, we'll figure out how to do the ingress, egress, figure out how many people we can set up in there, get a stage going. The equity and the infrastructure that we obtain by doing the show will stay with the venue. And then a town that is literally owes back taxes to the federal government right now because they owed, I think they just paid it off, but the town of Bramwell owed like over $100,000 to the federal government, like in taxes, because they had a mayor embezzle money and stuff, and they don't have any income coming into. That was the whole reason I got connected with them in the first place. But now the dream is like Bramwell will have a gymnasium that they can go book anybody at any time, and because the venue space itself is not for profit, there is no incentive for them to sign a contract with Live Nation and become another one of those venues. And if every show I do from now on is that, and I bring other artists in and other people, then it's like, imagine this network of all these places that have long-term economic stimulus and also have a place where people can go and do all these things in the real world where we don't have the opportunity to do them now. Like we're talking about. So when I was in Western North Carolina, I met this group of people through Savage Freedoms. Does that ring a bell?
I think I have heard of that before.
Yeah. They were running basically they were there doing what agencies weren't. Like they were pulling bodies out, and it was tough, but I was able to connect with those guys and actually rode on an airdrop with them and spent a lot of time with those. Most of them were Special Forces vets who had jobs and families and everything that they had just like, they still came anyway. Like one of the guys there he thought he was going to lose his job because his boss needed him to come back to work. But there was like, they had pulled a dozen bodies out of a pile of debris that day in Swannanoa. And he's like, I can't go home. Like I've got to be here doing it. And like they were there for free doing it. And I believe that it's actually I believe that one of the ways that we solve all of this in this country, like the lack of leadership, it seems like so complex. Like it seems too complex. We want to vote once every 4 years, and we hope that that's going to fix everything. But there's all these little things that we can do along the way. Like I part of this festival series, I hope to find a way to help empower like the Special Forces vets, because there are a lot of them are proven capable leaders that can, if they were put in a position of leadership and empowered to be able to make change, they would. And it's the proof's in the pudding. Like they were there like sacrificing everything to try to help a town that they had never even been in, because they felt called to do it, because the town needed leaders, and they came and did it. And like, I want to go to all these towns. There's a gentleman there I met named Justin Neal, and a few other guys who I've gotten involved now on this board for this rural revival thing. But every town we go to, before we go do the show, we're going to have like an investigative journalist go find out what corruption's going on there, what problems there are. Is it just things that the town needs? Like, is it things that the people there need? Is there a story there that needs to be told? We want to find the veterans that are there who
Bro, you'll have a freaking mini series out of every town you go into. Like, you know what I'm saying? You start looking for the corruption and, you know, what's going on with the locals.
What's keeping these people from living a fulfilled and good life in these towns? And like, what can we do to like make their life better? And maybe it's like, you know, maybe, and I'm just speaking out of thin air because I don't know who would fill this position, but like maybe we find somebody from the Dave Ramsey Network who can be there to like help financially coach those people. And maybe we have like I've been working with this gentleman named Graham Merriweather who does and Joel Salatin, and I even had a conversation with Mike Rowe about this, but I want to bring in, like when you go to this festival series, I want there to be like a farm or two there that can introduce, like, because people can grow a lot of food on their own just in their backyard, and like, and I want to get kids excited about like how to grow food and can, and like be out in the outdoors. But really all I want to do is just build spaces that good people can come and do good things in real life without that. And the reason why it will be successful is there isn't a ball and chain of money tied to it. Like I'm not there to make I'm not there to make a profit margin. It's done for all the right reasons. So like, I believe if enough good people come together for all the right reasons, that all of this can just, but I believe that's our path. I believe that's our only path forward is for good people to gather together and help one another. And, so the three pillars of this idea is truth, fellowship, and music. And I believe, and yeah, that's like my purpose. And it's still very much of it in the infancy stages. Like I said, probably our next show will be sometime in March. But basically, yeah.
Whereabouts?
Probably the first show will be in Spruce Pine, North Carolina, which is where I got my GED at. And their whole town was devastated there. And then another component of it is, you know, like Joe, when Richmond first happened, it was the day after the farm market show is when I was getting ready to do the Joe Rogan podcast. And he actually called me and we had like a 30-minute conversation. And I was telling Joe then that I just was going to take all the money from Richmond and donate it to a charity because I didn't want the money. I didn't need it. I just wanted it to go do some good. And he said, don't do that. Just keep the money and then do good with it when the time comes, you know, because you don't really know where your money's going to go if you just donate it away.
Yeah.
And so I've spent most of the money that I've made on buying property. And the first property that I'm going to use as part of this is this permaculture farm that I bought right just south of Farmville. It's about 75 acres, and then I just got another 150 acres beside it, and I'm going to turn it in. It was the first biodynamic farm in Virginia, but it hasn't been in operation in about 5 years, but they grew enough food on there to feed like hundreds of people. Like it's just greenhouses and just, you know, it's a permaculture farm, but I'm creating this space that will be open up to the public that like, Robert Kennedy Jr. calls it a healing center, but I'd almost call it more of a grounding center. But it's just a place that people can come and like get out in the woods and reconnect and learn how to grow their own food and just work with large animals. And like it's a therapeutic thing, but it's also just like a reconnecting. Man, it's just so incredible to be. I mean, speaking from experience, the guy who sold his house, bought some land and spent a lot of time on that land. Like I found myself out in the woods and found myself reconnecting in nature. And like there's more interesting things just about dirt and all the things like the microbes and the worms and the things you can grow and so like it's more interesting than anything you'll find on Facebook. I promise you that. You just have to go do like So that's my two functions, is like start this festival series and then start this pilot program farm. And then the idea is when we go do the festival series, a lot of the shows are going to be done at farms anyway. And those farms can also turn into this, and it'll eventually, hopefully, in my imaginative mind, it's like this network of farms that people can go to heal and get their mind right and learn how to be self-sufficient and learn real skills. Like I'm sure there would be tradespeople that would want to be a part of this festival series and get people back into like wanting to go do trade work. And like, I'm sure there would be people there that would help with mental health counseling and financial counseling and all that stuff. But like, there's all these efforts. If you look, there's all these people. There's people who are trying to like start their own rehabs and help people out. And there's these people who are trying to help vets with PTSD. And there's people who are trying to teach kids in school. Like everything I'm talking about, there's already thousands of people fighting that effort. I'm just trying to give them a place in real life to do all those things. Like I'm just one person who's not very capable of doing much of anything. But if I've been given the opportunity now, like I said, if God did give me the opportunity to have this crazy platform and get these accolades that like I don't deserve at all, like then the reason for it is so I can just have the opportunity. If I can bring 10,000 to get people together and do some good with it, like just and do that enough times, like it will be like there's no corporation, and there's nobody that will be able to stop it. You know, like
that's epic. You know, we have a factory up in Maine, in Farmington, Maine, which is awesome, and it's a great place. Maybe we could think about doing one up there, and then we have another one down in Asheboro, North Carolina, which again, just like a bunch of, the thing that's cool about it is a lot of people don't recognize that you can get a job that is a skill, working in a factory, doing something that like you like doing.
Yeah.
Whether it's people that are weaving material, working the looms, people that are sewing, like it's honorable, awesome work that people like doing. And a lot of people don't, you know, if you're a young kid right now, you know, you're 19, 20 years old, maybe that like you, like, hey, you don't really have a skill set. You can actually learn one, and you can have a good job that pays good, and like you're doing something productive for America. So that'd be pretty cool.
And I think that, and I think the people who will help me more than anything is, like I said, I have a friend of mine named Billy, and Billy was a Marine, and I don't know if Billy is probably going to be pissed that I even mentioned him on this podcast, but he's like a hero to me. Like he was in the Middle East. He got their tank got hit. He was the only one that survived out of his unit, to my understanding. And like, you know, Billy deals with a lot of stuff because of that. He's socially awkward like I am. Like you can tell he just doesn't really fit in society. But when they were out there trying to save those people and stuff, like he was the most cool, calm. Like I was the one that was upset out there, not him. Like and I just thought in my mind, and I think a lot of people do, that like these guys, like these men and women who are like in the military and like tough and go over there and fight and do all the stuff, that they're just like, somehow they're just immune to all of it. But like those guys at night were like throwing up and crying, you know, like it messed them up just as much as any other human being to have to see all that and do all that and go through it. But they just went and did it anyway, because they like that, like their calling and their purpose and their drive outweighed that fear, you know? Mm-hmm. But like they're enduring all that just like any of us would if we were to go do it. They're just, so like I never felt safer or in better company than I did when I was at that Savage Freedoms around all those people, because like, I don't know. I just realized in that moment, like these people are going to fit, like these are the people who are going to fix our country. Mm-hmm. Like not some scumbag mayor that's going to embezzle money out of the town, or not some group of council people who are going to vote in all these stupid laws. And like the people who are going to really save us, I think, are the people who like dedicated their whole lives to saving us already. Like And instead of us empowering those people to put in a position of leadership, it feels like the only system in place right now is to just give them SSRIs and stuff and just like send them on their way. And like those guys were saying that they didn't lose a lot of their friends over there. They lost them once they came back home, you know? Like, so if we can just, I don't know, I'm going to find some way to empower those people into a position of leadership through this. And I think like, I don't know. I think there's enough good people left in the world that if we just find a place for them to all go and gather and like, and it's based on, and we're all there for the right reasons, you know? I don't know. I just have this vision in my head, and it's difficult for me to even like speak it in words because the whole thing is so complex. But in the end, I just envision this network of like, I don't know. I just don't see a way for us forward. I don't see a way that we're going to survive as a species if we stay immersed in the digital world and we stay stuck in this like algorithmic cycle where everything we worry about is what they want us to worry about. Like people are so mad about things in politics that don't affect their quality of life or anyone's quality of life, really. They're emotionally based. Like they do. The algorithm does a really good job of finding the things that's going to destabilize us emotionally the most and polarize us the most, and they keep it in your face all day long, 24/7. And there's all these like real quality of life issues that like we're in we really are in this country in a crisis right now. Like, you know, our vets, our homelessness, our education, our food, like everything's falling apart. And like people complain about it all day long and they want to vote in these systems that they think are going to fix it. But like, we've got to start voting every day to like, you know, like this is like an endless fight. Like this is a fight that we're in. And there's a lot on the line. Like, I don't think, and it's not anyone's fault, but like none of us can really conceptualize how much sacrifice was made for us to be able to sit here and film this podcast today. Oh, yeah. And I don't think we're able to conceptualize how much evil there really is in the world. You know, we were talking about Jordan Peterson, and I think, like I said, your episode with him is what introduced me to Jordan Peterson like 10 years ago or whenever y'all filmed it. It was a while ago, but his Maps of Meaning course, like I would advise anybody in the world to go back and watch that episode with you. And then if they want to dive deeper, go back and look. If you go to Jordan Peterson's YouTube channel and search oldest to newest, his original lectures from the whatever college in Canada he was in, like where he's got the paper and the projector and all that. And he's and he's talking about the Soviet Union and like I don't know. I don't know. I'm just, like I said, I'm just like, I'm the same guy, whatever that quote you read at the beginning about how I'm just that dummy or whatever. Like I don't claim to have all the answers, but I know I've been exposed to enough good people in the last year that I know that there's thousands and thousands and maybe even millions of people who just want this world to go back to the way it was. And they want, like, we're too wrapped up in like the thing about the Bible that I was never taught as a kid. You know, I went to church as a kid. I got turned off to it. I was so angry about it. And I used to talk about God. And I remember I would talk about like, I would call God like Sky Daddy and the spaghetti monster and all that. I was very much like I was just hated it because to me, God in the Bible was just like another man's way of like putting authority on me or, you know, like trying to create some moral high ground on me. And it wasn't until all of this that I was like, I realized that the Bible is a book that centers society in a way in which it can exist functionally and healthy. Like sin is not something that is a lot of fun that people don't want us to. It's not like God doesn't want us to sin because he doesn't want us to have fun, and sin is fun. Sin is destructive. Sin goes against like just the laws of like hate and anger and lust and greed and gluttony, and like these are all things that are bad for society. They're bad for us, and it doesn't matter what time in history and what part in the world. Everyone that existed before will be forgotten. Like we are in world history, the United States is probably something that a lot of people will never even know existed. Like in the real, like how many societies existed before us that we have no idea who they even were. Our modern written history only goes back so far, and we know there's all the stuff that existed before that we don't really know a whole lot about. But those words in that book, even though they were written so long ago, are still so, like if you read Ecclesiastes and Proverbs and just read about like what Jesus talks about how to live in Matthew, like forget all the rest of it for just a minute and just look at Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Matthew, and like he's telling you like the reason that you turn the other cheek and the reason you love your neighbor and the reason that you have to do all these things, even though they don't really make sense when you first read them, it's because they help preserve you and they help empower you. It's not like the book is there as a guide for us on how to live is what it is. Like sin is something that's not good. We would all love to live in the Garden of Eden. Like we would all love to live in a place where there's paradise and there's no pain and there's no suffering and like all there is just love and good food. And like, I mean, it's like where everybody just tries to go on vacation to replicate the Garden of Eden for a week, you know, like, I don't know, like, and we'll never achieve the Garden of Eden, but we can sure try to like, at least just identify that our sin is not something that even helps us. It hurts us more than it does anybody else. Being angry at somebody hurts you more than it does them. Like it's destroying us. And I do think that like sin is more appealing and more attractive and more available now with the internet than it ever was before. Like go on Instagram without seeing some girl's butt shaking around or seeing like, you know, it was just like, we've just got to start getting good people together and like, and I think everything else will just come into place. I think this is all part of God's plan. Like, I think there's been like, man, even like, people who didn't believe in God at all. I mean, Jordan Peterson is a great example of that. I don't think he was very open about believing in God until very recently, but I saw like, there was a song Ed Sheridan put out like a couple weeks ago talking about Jesus and all this stuff. I don't know. I just see it popping up more and more. And, I just think it's time that we all just get together and just figure out how to let's just fix this thing. Like, let's just quit talking about it and start being about it.
Yeah, I got a friend who's a veteran Army guy, and he really gets upset about, you know, he wants to help out. He's always talking about how we need to put new legislation in, and but he gets very, very frustrated with how difficult that is. And I'm always, you know, just going back to him saying, man, just like help out the guy like down the street from you, help out your neighbor, help out the veteran that, you know, you see down on the street corner that's begging for money, like go help that guy. And that is just as impactful as trying to push through a piece of legislation that's going to take 4 years to get through and vote someone into office that you hope is not going to get bought out at the last minute and change everything. Like forget all that. Help your neighbor is the place to start. And if, like what you're saying, if we get a bunch of people that are all trying to help their neighbors, we can actually make a big impact.
Yeah, because I surprisingly have a fan base on both sides of the political aisle, you know, and honestly, part of that originated because people misunderstood the first video with the comment about Joe Biden. And so there was a lot of people on the left who actually thought I liked Joe Biden. So then they started to become a fan. So I have like, so it's so weird that I'm like kind of in the position I'm in, but I have like very far left wing female comedians who joke about things that are like not the things that like we're in two totally different worlds, but they're actually a fan.
Yeah.
But so I have this theory and Jordan does talk about this too, but I think there's a word called synergy. I think that is the word that describes it's where two opposites combine and empower one another. And I think what's happening, and I think it's because of this algorithm that we're in, but the reason why we're so divided and the reason why it seems like the left is so far left and polarizing and the right is so frustrated, like it's like this endless battle we're in with politics is because generally people who vote conservatively or vote more liberally, and they also apply that in their own thinking, like it's part of their personality. Like I think the analogy used by Peterson is, again, this is why I just want people to go watch the Maps of Meaning, because I'm giving you like the wish.com version, but people who think more conservatively are like the type of people who in a business would be like the CFO. Mm-hmm. Whereas the people who think more on the liberal side of the spectrum would be like more of the entrepreneur, like either in somebody innovative in the company or like maybe even the CEO, you know? And for the same reason why there's so many people that work at even though so many people on the left despise Elon Musk now and they think he's, you know, because of X and Twitter and all the polarizing stuff in politics, I think from the people I've talked to at SpaceX and Tesla that I've met, it sounds like there's more people on the left that work for those companies than on the right. And you would think it would be the opposite, but it's because we need both. Like we need people who put everything into boxes and keep it organized and keep it centered. Like we need people who think more conservatively, but we also need people who do think outside the box because it's our innovation that takes us forward. But the problem is right now we don't have people putting things in boxes and we don't have people figuring out how to add new boxes on. We have people who are like here, like just desperately trying to hold on to keeping things the same. And then I think what's happened is I think that a lot of the kids in college that seem to like get this very far left ideology and start to talk about like, you know, like just that kids can use a litter, like there's schools in Virginia where there's litter boxes now, you know, and like it's because those people who come up with those ideas and believe them and implement them, their brains are designed to think outside the box. They're in many cases, like the friends that I have that are left are super smart and they're not bad people at all. They just think way outside of the box, but they don't have a constructive way to think outside of the box, and they don't really have a reason to create anything productive because everything now is just so negative and so stalemated that now they're like they've been influenced to use that innovation and that thought to kind of just it's a form of rebellion is what it is. Like in the same way that when I was growing up as a kid with the war on terror, you know, you remember the left was very against the Bush administration, and that's what sort of originated these concepts, like the Rage Against the Machine type of thing, the Green Day type of thing, and then that maybe became like at some point like Occupy Wall Street, and then that turned into like Antifa and Black Bloc, and then that turned into this, and it's like it's just becoming a more and more form extreme of rebellion. But I do believe in my heart that there's a way to take these like hyper intelligent college kids who currently right now are sort of like being weaponized and letting them actually really be able to use their innovation and their talent and their creativity to help better. And I do think there's a way for the people on the right who the left despise to help keep us centered and focused and like I do think in the same way that a business needs a CFO and a CEO, or the way they need a business manager and an innovator, I do think like that's the way our country's like it was talked about. Many of the founding fathers, and by the way, everybody wants to act like the founding fathers were the greatest people in the world. They were human beings too. Like they had flaws. Like the fact that they were trying to escape from a country where they didn't have freedom and create freedom, like that's why we appreciate them. It's not because George Washington was a saint or because of any, like we don't even really know any of those people. All we know is what we can read about them. But they just wanted people to have freedom of speech and freedom of thought, because that is the pinnacle of how we exist in society. If we're not allowed to speak freely, we're not allowed to think freely. And if we're not allowed to think freely, then we're not allowed to create or innovate or do any of these important things that we need to do as a species to be able to move forward, to be able to survive and thrive. And when we don't do that, that's what we get like the Soviet Union is the example that everybody uses, but it's like when you really read about the Soviet Union and what those people did to each other, not only what the government did to them, but what those people did to each other out of fear. You know, that's exactly what that's where we're that is where we're heading. But the thing is like, no, it's like that's the only difference between me and somebody who is just full on right wing. Is like, I do believe in the First and Second Amendment, that is traditionally a conservative thing, but I don't see people on the left as being evil or crazy or whatever. I think a lot of them are they are highly intelligent people who are creative thinking, but they've just been misguided, and this algorithm has weaponized all of us against each other. And if you get all those people in real life, everyone, I don't care who you are, like I said, I don't care who you voted for, like you like food and you like music, and so if you get those people together in real life and don't even give them the opportunity to talk politics, they'll find there's a million other things they have in common. Like, you know, like how much time have we spent on the internet? Listen, like I would love to see how much time on social, like how many conversations on social media there's been about gender versus how much there's been about like our food or about our, you know, about how we get take care of our veterans or our homeless, or how we figure out how to get people in a position to where they aren't entrapped into debt as soon as they get out of high school. Like, let's just get all these people together and let's just take a time out. Like, you guys can go back to arguing in 5 years, but let's just take 5 years. Let's all just hang out and figure out, how do we identify all on a local level, how do we identify all the things that are affecting our quality of life and fix them? It's just out of everyone's best interest. Like, everyone just, like, I don't know if I'm even making any sense or not, but I always look at the best in people, and I know there's a lot of evil in the world, and a lot of people, and I understand, like, I know not everybody wants the world to be a happy place. A lot of people just want to watch the world burn, but honestly, dude, there's a part of me that wants to watch the world burn too. I mean, like I said, I used to go to Washington, D.C. and go to some of these protests and stuff, and I'm definitely not somebody who likes establishment or authority or any of those things, but at the same time, I do understand, like, I don't know, I just see that we're all being weaponized against each other, and this is just get us all together and just, I don't know, I see a bigger picture of an opportunity for us. And it's like this everywhere. In like Europe, man, people in Europe are dealing with the exact same things we are, and they are just, their countries are dying. Their governments don't care about them. The decisions they make seem like they hurt them more than help them. It's like, it's almost like the people in charge have malicious intent. Like, they don't want they want these countries to die somehow, so, but there's so many, I don't know, there's just so many good people left in the world, and there is a way out. There is a way to fix it. So that's like what I'm going to do now.
There is a way to fix it. It's going to start with the Rural Revival Project coming to a neighborhood near you, coming to a farm near you.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. And we're definitely we're going to keep everybody there well hydrated using Jocko's hydrated Island Orange drinks. So.
Right on, man. So when does the tour kick off, or when are you going to start doing these things? You said they're going to be out here on the West Coast at some point. Is there a plan for that yet? You got any locations yet?
Yeah, well, the problem has been that, like I said, I was trying to use management companies and like people in the professional space to help me plan. So my very first meeting that I had when I went to Nashville for the very first time, I met with 4 different booking agencies, and I pitched this idea to all 4 of them, and I picked the one that I thought would do the best job. And they just stalled me for 14 months. Mm-hmm. And it's not their fault. And the people there, like a lot of the people that work at mind you, I got to clarify this too. A lot of the people that work at the Nashville companies are really good people, and they are there for the music. It's not their fault. It's like a very small percentage of people at the very top of the company it's not the people there. Mm-hmm. But so I've had to go basically do this all completely DIY.
Going rogue. Yeah.
I'm going rogue, I guess, as the cool kids say. And
have you ever heard of a band called Minor Threat? Either a punk band from DC.
I haven't. No.
Okay, they're just led. You should look into them, because the guy that was the singer, he was also in a band called Fugazi. You ever heard of that band? Mm-mm. Okay, so he was kind of brought a lot of the DIY stuff to his life, but he started his own record label, and he did like all these shows that he would play in weird places and charge $1 to get in, and he stuck with that his whole life. He's still doing it.
That's
his name
awesome.
is E. Mackay. Yeah, so it reminds me a lot of what you're trying to do. Keep prices down, bring people together. The music's different, but the attitude is the same, and he's been pulling it off.
Well,
this
this certainly won't be a country festival either. Like I said, like my dream first festival would be like, and I don't even need to play necessarily these at all of them. Like it could even just turn in it. But my dream would be to have like some crazy mashup with us and some punk rock band and like a rapper or something. Like, it doesn't, because like going back to the Pittsburgh analogy, letting the people in Pittsburgh be able to experience a part of their state that they would never otherwise go to. Mm. Like, they'll be amazed at how awesome that town is that they go to, and they'll have no idea how good it is until they get there. And then also being able to bring music from pop culture to those towns and let those people experience that. Like, it's bridging a huge gap, and it's just it's a very exciting opportunity. But yeah, it definitely won't be a country festival. Like, my favorite festival that I did in 2024 was the Levitate Music Festival in Massachusetts, which was we opened for Sublime.
Oh, damn.
And That was my favorite. Yeah, dude, you want to talk about like a cool moment is being on stage and looking over and the dudes from Sublime are like videoing your set or whatever. That's a cool feeling. Like but that's kind of the vibe I would think this is going to have, is more of like a Levitate music festival, not like a country music festival, like it's going to have the immersive feeling of like when you go to like a bluegrass festival, but it's going to have the more of the music of like a Levitate music festival with and then like I said, all the other people who can be there to help with things, like because people just need resources and stuff too. Like if you're a 25-year-old dude, you're in debt, you've got a kid that you and your fiance, because a lot of kids now, they have a lot, like I was, I had a kid and never got married, so I was trying to raise a kid with a girl I wasn't married with. I didn't have any financial education. I didn't know what the hell I was doing with my life. I was just working in it would have been great. What am I supposed to, like, you can't just pick up the phone and call somebody. And, you can watch stuff online, like podcasts and videos and stuff, but there just needs to be something in the real world there just needs to be a place. And at one point in time, the church served that purpose. But see, the reason that church has died so much in this country and lost its way is because of all the reasons why I was turned off to the Bible in the first place. So like, this is technically a ministry effort, but it's not a church. It's going to serve the purpose of what church maybe once did at one time, which is like
community.
Let's look out, let's just figure out how to fix all the problems that these people have. It's complicated, but it's not that complicated. Like, we can teach people how to manage their money, and we can teach them how to get good skills and how to manage their time, and how to find synchrony in their families and be able to spend time together just in the average household. I'd love to know like how much screen time individually everyone in a family spends versus the amount of time they spend together. It's probably like 10-1 or something,
Yeah.
There are so many complex problems that we have in society today that we all talk about and we all identify, and many of them are brought up in politics, but a lot of them are brought up just in society and on social media. But I don't think many of those things are individual problems. I observe most of those as being symptoms of a bigger problem, which is that we have to be connected to one another in order to exist. And like I said, give it a couple more generations. And like, I don't know. I don't see any other way forward.
Yeah. It's like when people morph in the future and their neck is bent over and like their eyesight can only see like 18 inches in front of their face. That's what we got to watch out for. Becoming those kind of weirdos.
It's already to that point. Like, in the 90s, if you talk to somebody about the idea of them having a chip implanted in them, they were talking about how it was the Antichrist and freaking out about it. And now there's people excited about that opportunity, like because their whole life they've been in their whole life they've been in technology,
Yeah.
Like, and now Kim Kardashian's got a Tesla bot, so who knows what that thing's going to figure out, like, but it's like and AI is a whole nother I don't see how we're gonna. I don't see how AI won't take over the planet. I mean, like, really, I just don't see how it's not going to happen. But
because AI can't can't come to the shows at Rural Revival.
Maybe they will.
Maybe they will.
See, but that's why I say music and food. Yeah, there's no robots showing up there. That's for sure.
Oh man, awesome. That get us up to speed. That's what we're doing. Anything else? When's the album come out? We're dropping it over the next month or so. We need to coordinate. We need to coordinate. Hopefully we can get one of the first song out when this comes out. That'd be pretty sick.
All the song, I've got like, I think 4 that are pretty much done. We've just got to start dumping them. And then now that I'm going to keep doing this thing, we've got a lot of music to record, and I want to do some really cool collaborations with other artists along the way too.
Hell yeah.
I had just talked to like crazy stuff like Shabu. Like I talked to Shabuzi about doing a song with him. Which, funny enough, like going back to your E minor G C D thing with Richmond. Do you know? I didn't realize it till after the fact, and I don't know which song came out first. But Tipsy and Richmond North of Richmond use the same chord. I think even the same chord progression, like exactly, like. So it just goes to show every song is just like the same.
The same song.
But yeah, give it a month and
spark, a little bit of soul.
But yeah, that's a little snapshot into my head, and I'm so sorry I've been all over the place on this podcast.
No, man, it's all good.
I've been just rambling along over here, but
you got that mind of the artist, right? I was over here trying to put it in a box. You're over there just getting after it.
I guess so, yeah.
Good. That's the way it's got to be in order for something to work, right? You got to have both sides. Where can people find you? So it's You got OliverAnthonyMusic.com. You got Instagram, which is Oliver_Anthony_music. You're on Twitter X at Ain't Got a Dollar. And then you got your YouTube channel, which is at Oliver Anthony Music. And then you can get your music kind of wherever, Spotify, wherever places is that you want to get into it, right?
Yeah. So the last thing I'll say is that my last part of this mastermind scheme this year is because I can't in good faith push stuff on social media and tell everybody to not be on social media. Mm-hmm. So somehow this year I'm going to probably eventually deactivate all those profiles except for YouTube. Mm-hmm. So I'll have my music on YouTube and on the streaming platforms. And I've got an SMS email list that you can sign up for through my website that I haven't started actively posting on yet. But eventually by the end of this year, the fans will be able to catch the updates through the SMS email list, and I'll put the new music on YouTube. And if anybody wants to post the stuff from the SMS email list on their own, like for example, there's a guy now that takes a ton of my stuff and cuts it up into shorts and puts it all over Instagram, and it does really well. So I don't worry about cutting my stuff up and putting it into shorts. I just let other people do it. But at some point, I probably just won't even be on social media. I think it's like I don't see how I can preach about us getting off of social media and be on it. You know?
Yeah, no, that's a tough one. I know I have that thing too where I tell people to get off social media on social media. I'm literally telling people don't be on social media while I'm on social media. There's some kind of major hypocrite activity going on there. I haven't figured out how to solve it.
It would be cool to have, like, if you had like a Jocko SMS email list that you could sign up for, and then like imagine it wouldn't really be you texting them. But like, how cool would it be if I got a notification on my phone and there is an SMS or an iMessage on my phone and it's from Jocko and it's got like what it's.
Well, luckily for you, if you text Jocko Fuel to 24672, you'll get it. So we actually do have that. Yeah.
Well, I'll just have to look at what you're doing and I'll just try to copy off of yours, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Well, hey, if I actually text Jocko on my phone, I get a pretty real. It feels just like I'm talking to the real guy now. So.
That is the real guy. Right on, man. Echo, you got any questions?
Yeah, real quick. So GCDE. Mm-hmm. Off the top of your head, actually kind of for both you guys, I guess, but Chris, is there any songs off the top of your head that can play just those chords?
Dude, that's so
Richmond,
many
north of Richmond
songs. That's like literally, it's a ridiculous amount.
Well, maybe
of songs.
I don't know, ones that are like kind of known, like, okay, speaking from a beginner standpoint, right? Because you said that's what you learned,
with
right?
GC and D, you can do almost anything. And if you were to buy a capo, see, I didn't know this when I was a kid, but with a capo, and I do this. And
a capo? What's a capo?
That like thing that you asked me about on that guitar over there. When you're like, what's that for? And I said, I didn't have 100% solid answer. It's so you can play in a different key, right?
Yeah, you can just bump it up. And so like, it's like Guitar for Dummies. Like you'll see me do that. Like I'll just move the cape but so I would say, to answer your question, G, C, and D. I would say if somebody wants to learn guitar, G, C, D, and E.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's almost any country song and most pop songs. And if you go on Ultimate Guitar, for example, to look your chords up, if there's a button that'll say transpose and it'll have an arrow up and down. And and there's also another button on there that says simplify. So let's say you wanted to learn like whatever popular song, go on Ultimate Guitar, look it up. There's a good chance that you can hit the simplify button and then transpose up or down, and there's some kind of way to play it with G, C, D, and E, and maybe like one other chord varying from that. But there's not very many songs that you can't do that with.
Yeah.
And you want to play ukulele, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever played ukulele before?
Yeah. So a guy actually, there was a fan of mine who made me he was a welder in a shop, and he made me a metal ukulele, welded it together, and I've been playing around on it. It's sick.
Yeah,
I love the ukulele. Well, I've a lot of people in my age range fell in love with the ukulele because of SpongeBob was like the big show when we were all growing up, and I believe that's got the ukulele on it. But dude, that'd be sweet.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
When you play chords, I mean, obviously it's only 4 strings, and the chords are even more simplified than they are in guitar. So it's Yeah.
It's smaller though, right?
Yeah, well, it's definitely smaller.
Yeah, so it's like freaking hard.
No.
Physically
The spacing between
You're
the
so
strings
jacked,
is
it's going to be like, it's going to look like this big when you're playing it.
The weird thing is,
good tips.
So I was out. We have a thing, consulting company called Echelon Front. And we were talking to people, and we have this thing we do, and we were up at this campfire with these people, and we know when we talk about when you're in a leadership position, the tone that you have, and the way that you're communicating people, you have to make sure that you have the right tone when you talk to people, and it's very difficult to fake it, right? And then I was playing the guitar because we were sitting around the campfire, and I said, "Listen to this," and I played like a A, and I'm like, "That's a happy note, right?" And this is universal. It's universal. And I was just doing this to Echo before you showed up. I'm like, "See this? This is happy." Bring. And then I'm like, "Now this is A minor," and it's like bring, and that's universal. Like you were talking about how you go to different tribes that have never been contacted before. They will be able to tell the difference between A and an A minor. Happy, not happy. Like that is a universal thing that shows up. So the music is a real thing, Echo Charles. There's something going on there. What else? You got any other questions, Echo?
Nope, that's it. Good to meet you.
Well, man.
Likewise, yeah. It's so like, again, you got to think from my perspective, like this is just such a surreal moment to sit here with you. Like after watching countless episodes of you guys, I just don't know if I can even put into words like how crazy it is to sit here at this table and talk to you.
It was funny when you walked in. You were kind of like looking around, like it was like, yo,
yeah. It's just like,
oh, it's cool.
This is a day that I'll like for the rest of my life. This will be in the top 10. Like I just don't know how else to say it. I don't want to like sound like an ass kisser, but it's. I don't, and that's one of the first things everybody asks me when like random people at the airport and stuff, they'll always talk about a little bit of my stuff. And then they're always like, well, what's Jordan Peterson like? Or what's Joe Rogan? Everyone that watches one of these podcast episodes always dreams about like, oh yeah, if I get on here, this is all the things I would talk about. It's like this is a life moment for me to be able to do this. So
that's awesome.
I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate everybody listening to me ramble on for a little while. So it's been good to articulate a lot of this because I haven't had the opportunity to talk to this with a lot of people other than, my dog Rufus he doesn't have a lot to say when I tell him all this.
He's a good listener, man. Well, awesome, man. Well, thanks for joining us, man.
Yes, sir.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming out here to do it. I know this is your first time in California. We were having you and I were having a little text conversation about what California's like. And, I almost started sending you, pictures and because people don't when you don't come from California, Echo Charles, sure. You think that all of California looks like Baywatch and Berkeley. Like between those two things, that's what you think it looks like. Mm-hmm. But as I pointed out in text, California is basically agriculture. The vast majority of the state is agriculture or just straight nature, and produces, I forget the figure that it's like, but produces like 12 or 15% of all the agriculture in all of America is here.
California is somehow growing up, there was always this expression about, well, everything that happens in California, it'll be to Virginia in 10 years. But California has been sort of the leader of so many things, and like so many things have originated from here. It's like probably one of our most important states, and so it's no surprise that it's in such a state of turmoil. And so like it seems like it's just so mismanaged and so upside down right now. It's kind of like like when California started to have so many issues and so much overregulation and stuff, like however many years ago, that should have been a red flag that it was coming everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, though, I think this is an important, and I hated that I couldn't get on the West Coast last year, but it was, again, I'm working with agencies and I only have the options that are given to me. And I just couldn't do a West Coast tour for 2024. I didn't have enough time to plan it. But California is a state I really plan to focus on this year with even some of the, like, this is a beautiful place.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was like, my jaw dropped when we walked out of the hotel this morning and just got to see San Diego in the daylight. It is like, I don't know. It's an America, like this is America in a big way. And
yeah. And look, I think the pendulum's about to swing back, in the other direction because, we just had these terrible fires up in LA, and the mismanagement of those is very clear for everyone to see. And you're also seeing, what happened up in San Francisco and like all these companies leaving, stores shutting down. Like it's unsustainable. It's just unsustainable. And you know, it's like eventually, imagine if you were a kid and your parents like bought you a house to live in, and you're like, oh, awesome. And so you start like having people over, and you're starting to have parties, and more people are showing up, and now like the electric bill's kind of getting higher because people are jumping the jacuzzi, and they're also like pouring drinks in the jacuzzi, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and you go, damn, dude, like I'm gonna ruin this whole house if I keep going in this direction. I think California is saying that right now. They're just waking up and going, oh, hey, it seemed like you were super cool. Like when you were the guy, when people were coming over, they're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Wait, I can eat all I want out of the fridge? Of course you can have what you want out of the fridge. You want some booze? Have some booze. Hey, you want to do some drugs? It's all good. Go ahead and do it. You want to bring your friends over too? And you like, that's what we're doing in California. And so it feels really good. You know, you're going, oh yeah, we're really cool. We're great hosts. We're going to take care of everybody. But then you look up, you wake up one morning and you go, oh damn, all my silverware has been stolen. You know what I mean? Like, oh damn, somebody took a shit in the fish tank, right, or the sink or whatever. And you say to yourself, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And you're going to put some rules in place, and you're going to be a little bit more sane, and you're going to recognize that, hey, when we're going to have to kick them out. Like if you shit in the fish tank, you're getting kicked out. If you just can't come in here and clean the refrigerator out. You can't do it. So that's where we are.
It's a great California is a great example of how both ways of thinking went against each other instead of helping each other. Like California had all this cultural and like a lot of good music came out of here, and a lot of new ideas and like a lot of cool stuff. But then it's like there was also a lot of really stupid ideas, but there was no way for any of those people to admit that they were stupid ideas, because then that means the other side's right.
Yeah.
And same way, it happens both ways, you know. But I do think one day California will be a great place to live again. But right now,
I don't think it's very far off, honestly. I think there's going to be a big shift in the government here in the very near future, and I think it's going to swing back to the way it should be. And when you come back out, I mean, I'll come see you wherever you're doing shows. I'll roll up but man, if you go to Yosemite National Park, bro, it is like awe-inspiring.
Well, I think I told you in the text, but it was funny, of all the things that really like opened my eyes to how beautiful California was when they were chasing Christopher Dorner, and he was hiding out
Big Bear.
He was hiding out in Big Bear.
Yeah.
And like this is just like the bad side of me.
Yeah, you had no idea that could exist in California.
I just pictured California just being like dumpsters on fire, and like I don't know. All I saw, the only pictures I'd ever seen of it were like L.A. Like I don't know. I just had this bad. I don't know. I'm just, there's a lot of people, just a lot of stupid people like me that don't know any better. But yeah, the Christopher Dorner chase. I was like, man, wherever that is, that's beautiful. Like I probably wouldn't want to run. I probably wouldn't want to be a hostage for Christopher Dorner, but I'll go there once they catch him.
What's crazy about that is, so that place where he was, Big Bear, that is an hour and a half from L.A. And when you're certain parts of the mountains, if you go like to the edge, the mountains that are south, you can see all of LA. It's like crazy. Yeah. You can be up, like if you look north, you'll see what looks like it could be just unbound nature for as long as you could see. And if you turn around 180 degrees and you look south, you will see San Bernardino and Los Angeles, just this entire sprawl. And it's crazy that exists. But that sprawl of LA, once it ends, like it ends. Like it just stops, and then you get into, I mean, the Sierra Mountains, which are freaking amazing. You go through Death Valley, which is amazing in a different way. I mean, it's Death Valley, called Death Valley for a reason, but it's nature. And then you go up north, like, man, it's just, that's another thing that's crazy is when you get to San Francisco, people think San Francisco is Northern California. It's actually just the midpoint of California.
Yeah.
And above San Francisco, there's just nature. It's just nature forever. So, yeah, man, when you get out here, hopefully we'll get to spend a little time and I can show you around some of that stuff.
I'd love to come back when you get your, hopefully by then you'll have your gym rocking again and all that. I'd love to come. Hopefully by then I won't be such a fat slob. I can come work out with y'all.
Come and do it, man. And jiu-jitsu, that's another thing. I wanted to chime in about 4 times today, dude. Another thing, jiu-jitsu, man. Jiu-jitsu is community. It's contact. It's hanging out. It's 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour of hanging out with your friends. If you're Echo Charles, you're spending at least 50% of the time just sitting around talking to other people on the mats afterwards, which is good.
Yeah, I would love to. So you're like the 4th person in 2 weeks to tell me I need to try it. So I guess it's a sign that I need to try it.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, but it's something that brings people together.
Yeah,
it's something that brings people together. Kind of like, I guess you can't put it in the same exact category as food and music, because food and music are very universal. But maybe, I don't know, man. Scrapping. You definitely
for boys, I think.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, for boys. I just got a new dog. Because of what happened to Odin, my other dog. But neighbor's dog came over and like they're instantly doing jiu-jitsu, like instantly, and when it's the same when you have like little kids, man. Little kids, you give them that little opportunity, they're gonna wrestle. Especially what opens it up for them is if there's a pool, because a pool, like all of a sudden you have padding and you can kind of fight each other. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Like a shallow pool or something?
Yeah, like a shallow pool. Like we can just wrestle in the pool.
Yeah.
So
it's true.
That's good stuff. But I think California is going to make some big changes, in my opinion, pretty quickly. I think everyone's kind of.
So the question that I had for you, I guess, before we, like, so for like a guy, just for other people listening, but like for me too, because I'd love to know this. Like, so like in my position, I was like, God, I got to the end of this tour last year. I was like 280 some pounds. I was like, I got to do something with my life, get back into working out. So I've been eating I intermittent fasted, and I've been working out basically every other day. My neighbor in West Virginia is like a physical trainer guy, so we've been doing a lot of different. But is there like for like the people who are out of shape, who want to but it's so and it's so hard to find a routine, and there's a million different things out there. Like, what's the most cut and dry? Like to get, they say it takes 30 days to create a habit because you've got to create that neural pathway. So like it's so much resistance when you get into it. Like what's your advice to all the other slobs like me that want to get their life right, and like they want to get, I know that it's no easy way to do it, but from just a nutritional standpoint, from a workout, like what's the most simplistic way to at least introduce it? Do you think it's to find somebody to mentor, like to go to a jiu-jitsu gym, or do you think what do you think? Like
yeah, if you want to get into jiu-jitsu, here's the following process. Do you have a pen you can write these things down? Don't worry about it. You'll be able to remember. Here's the deal. If you want to start doing jiu-jitsu, go to the jiu-jitsu gym and start training jiu-jitsu. That's what you need to remember.
Yeah.
I think as far as getting on the path for being more healthy, I think one of the best things you can do is, before you do anything else in the morning, like get up and then go do something physical. I don't care if you go for a walk. I don't care if you do some weightlifting. I don't care if you do yoga. I don't care what you do. For the simplest thing is walking. Right? Yeah. This is simple. Echo Charles has been on a little kick for a little bit now, doing his week. He's stretching the term, calling it road work. So road work from the boxing world, road work is you go out and you run at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? Yeah. Even my freaking daughter, Rana, and my other daughters, they were getting fired up the other day talking about road work. They were like, dude, Mike Tyson was saying, bah, 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 bah. He's like, why are you doing this? He goes, because it sucks, because this is what we're doing. Like you can get fired up for road work, but that's legit road work, which is hard. That means you're getting up before the sun comes up. You're going out. You're doing it, right? Cool. Fired up. Echo's doing Echo's version of road work. It's like road
work.
Yeah, road work. Explain, honestly, explain your...
Yeah.
Because I think that's a good place to start. Yeah. Well, if you were to wake up and go for a road walk.
Road walk.
There we go.
Well, I still think it's appropriate, road work, the word, because yes, in the boxing world, it's true. Road work, but you're training for something, training for a match or something like this. But in life, it's a lot more mellow than that, usually. Depends on your life, I guess. But usually, it's a little bit more mellow. So we can, instead of that freaking, 5-mile run or whatever, we can just walk for 30 minutes or something like this, right? And it's going to be super beneficial in all these other ways. Even though it's like mellow, it's way more mellow than a freaking run. It does not suck at all, especially if you like audiobooks or this kind of stuff. It's actually kind of cool. Easy to pick it up as a habit if you have the time. If you're not rushed every day, like some people are rushed every day, I get it, whatever. But oh yeah, so super beneficial. It doesn't zap you of your energy too or nothing like that.
Actually gives you energy.
Yeah, like you're kind of like flowing after. Yeah, if you and it depends on where you live, but me, for example, I started with just 15 minutes. I just start walking 15 minutes, audiobook, boom, freaking 15 minutes. Then I walk home. That's 30 minutes.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. This is the first thing. Drink water and just go, And then right there, from there, you can stack on any simple workout program. And yeah.
But yeah, walking, if you could walk that 30 minutes every morning, then at least it's getting you going, and it's also probably getting your mind in a state of like, all right, I'm doing that. Like maybe it gives you some accountability and some kind of point of reference to build off of.
It does a lot of things, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The whole reason I started, which I think applies to a lot of people, is, of course, I just started hearing all the benefits of walking or whatever. But if you kind of evaluate your life, in my situation, like I'm pretty sedentary, even though I work hard, work out, and work out, do all this stuff, go to jiu-jitsu, sometimes varying levels of activity there. But other than that, pretty sedentary, just sitting in front of the computer screen.
Sucks.
Even us sitting here, we've been like, mentally, but that physically, this is sedentary work right here that we're doing. So when you kind of evaluate your day to day, it's like, bro, I'm living a sedentary lifestyle, even though I'm working out. Which is
percentage wise, totally sedentary.
Yeah, exactly.
Compared to if we were back at the moving company, all day we're lifting stuff.
100%, exactly right. So, and your body doesn't know the difference, bro. Your body's not like, oh yeah, you lifted today, good job, now you can be healthy, bro. It doesn't work like that, So I'm like, all right. So then I just started walking, and then all this. So I can reap all the benefits. And like I said, it's not like you're doing these hard 2-a-days either. Right, you just walked for a little bit. Like a lot of people are doing that kind of activity anyway, So it doesn't really register on the tired part of your day, but you get the benefits nonetheless,
So I think that's a really good baseline. Wake up early, go for a walk at a minimum, and then just figure out some basic calisthenics to do, man. Like just even doing push-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups if you got them, some squats. And I'm not talking with weights. I'm just talking doing squats just with air, right?
Yeah.
And I think those things right there, if you can't do a pull-up, hang on the bar, those kind of things, which if you don't do them, you will not be able to do them. That's a real problem with life.
Yeah.
That's why as people get older, all of a sudden when they fall down, they can't get back up again. Remember that commercial when we were kids? I've fallen and I can't get up.
Hell yeah.
That's a real thing. Because if you don't practice getting down and getting back up, you won't be able to do it eventually. And I've talked about a couple things where I've had situations in my life where I had an injury and I couldn't do a certain movement for a while. And when I went back to go back and do that movement again, I couldn't do it anymore. I had to re-earn it. I had to get it back again, and you can get it back again. It's not fun and it sucks. It hurts your ego because you're like, dude, I used to be able to do this, and now I can't do it. Yeah, cool. Well, what are you going to do? Submit? Don't surrender, don't submit. But if you're not careful, you can look up. See, one thing how did you say, 31 right now?
32.
32 years old, bro.
Yeah.
You're still at a stage where you probably have most of your mobility that you would have had when you were 18, right? But now's the time. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. This is a simple saying. So real basic stuff, man. Push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, squats.
I would add one more element that I think no one really talks about that much, that I realized it's almost intangible, but I'm going to explain it the best way I can. If you care about the workout, some people, when they get into work, I want to get in shape. They care about being in shape. They don't care about the workout. So if you're like, okay, I can do, I don't know, even if let's say we're starting I'm going to do 10 push-ups, right? We'll say I'm going to do 10 push-ups. Okay, I got all 10 push-ups. The next time you do push-ups, right, you got to care about that kind of stuff. You got to be like, okay, I only got 9. That should bother you. You should be like, no, I need to do my 10 or 11 or 12. And once you get up to 15 or something, and then you're only doing 14 one day, that should bother you. You should care about that kind of stuff. And I think that way it'll keep you kind of in the game as almost like a little mini mission in your workouts, rather than, oh my gosh, I got to gut through this thing, and you're looking forward to, for it to be over, which is the case anyway a lot of times. But if you have that little mission mindset in it, bro, it'll help you stick with it 100%.
And I remember when I was watching your videos years ago, you're talking about your routine, because there was videos talking about routine that really helped me with what I was, because I was waking up early in the morning and it seemed like I didn't have good time management. But I remember you talking about how important those workouts were in the morning. If you didn't get them, you were just like, so I think I think the battle for everyone is getting to that, like maybe once you get to that point where it's such a habit, then it's like, but it seems like it's like that first, but the 30 minutes of walking, like who doesn't want to just go walk for 30 minutes? That seems like such an easy way to get over that. Well, thanks. Yeah, I wanted to ask that while we were here.
And then you asked about eating too, and it's like we at our gym there was a guy, and he had stacked on some weight over the years, not good weight, by the way. And then one day he disappeared for a while, and he came back, and he was like pretty, like he lost weight. And I said, dude, freaking dropping some weight. You dropping down a couple weight classes? And he's like, yeah, I dropped to like whatever it was, 38 pounds. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. I go, how'd you do it? And he goes, I stopped eating like an asshole. And I was like, yeah, you know what I mean? I knew exactly what he meant. You know, it's like when you're eating pizza and fudge rounds and the other crap, you're gonna get out of shape. And if you everyone knows what to eat, like eat things that are good for you. We all know what they are. So just don't eat like an asshole, man. That's the key.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just a lot of people don't realize how bad all that food.
Yeah.
Nobody it looks so good and it's so appealing. Not even the junk food, but even just some of this, like I said, even some of the stuff you buy that there's some things that are marketed as being healthy for you that are still like, it's like
the way that they do packaging and stuff now is like they just make it a certain color and use a certain font and use like one or two words. And you're like, yo, this must be good for me. And dude, my wife is pissed about this stuff. Like, because she'll be in the supermarket. And my wife's very healthy, but she's not like a crazy healthy person. But she's like, she likes to eat what's good. And she'll come home and she'll throw stuff away. But I'll like open to throw away something, and I'll see like packaged things in there, and I'm like, wait, why do we throw away food that we bought? And sure enough, she goes, look at the ingredients. And I'll look at the ingredients, and sure enough, a bunch of sugar and just a bunch of chemicals, and it's just terrible. So yeah, you're right. You got to be careful. The packaging, they know how to do it. They know how to make the packaging look like it's healthy, and it ain't healthy. So you got to watch out for that. Anything else, Echo Charles?
No.
Chris, anything else, brother?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Right on, man. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for what you're doing to support rural America, which I think is going to be a big deal. And then thanks for making your music. Thanks for sharing your music. I know it was like kind of almost on a whim. It seemed like sometimes that you were uploading that stuff, but I think it's really helping a lot of people connect with other people, connect with their families, connect with their past, connect with their future, connect with themselves, connect with their faith, man. And I think it's awesome. So
thank you. It means a lot coming from you. Yeah. Thanks.
Right on, bro. Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
And with that, Chris, Oliver, Anthony has left the building. However, before he left the building, he played us one of the new songs.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and call this right now. Look, hey, did I just hang out with the dude? Have I been trading texts with him for a while? Would I be considered like I'm a supporter? Yep, 100%. Yeah. But I would not say this. I'm about to make a statement.
Okay.
The song that he just played us is going to be huge. It is going to be huge.
You're calling it?
I'm calling it.
Okay.
And I wish I could like somehow like put a bet on it, right? But I don't know how to do that.
Can you say the name of the song or no?
It had to do with a woman. We'll say that.
Yeah. Okay.
So there you go. We noted. Is that for what is it called? To verify my hunch.
Well, I know the name of the song, and I know how the song went because I listened to it. Agree. I like it. I'm less of a prophet than you, I think. So I'm gonna. But I would put it this way: if you are absolutely 200% correct, I will not be surprised because I dug it too. 100%.
It was freaking ripping. It was a ripping song.
You felt it.
Yeah. It had everything. And it's like, look, it's not going to be a hit song like a pop song. Yeah. It's going to be like a rock and roll, like legend song.
So
that's what I'm here to tell you.
Not to go too deep on this particular song, but you ever watch the movie Desperado? Antonio Banderas, he goes.
I think I saw parts of it.
Vengeful. Anyway, there's this part right after the shootout scene, one of the shootout scenes, that this rock song kind of plays. It had like the exact same vibe as that song.
And you like that song?
Very much so, actually.
You can see what I'm saying here.
Yes, I do.
That song's going to be epic. So hopefully it be dropping that thing pretty soon. And it's awesome. He's still got control over his whole, let's say, library and life and stuff. So very cool. Also, if you're going to be getting it done musically, got to get it done physically.
It's true.
You heard him asking, like, you know, everybody's got to stay on the path.
Yep, it's true.
You can't be rocking out if you're not in shape.
Yep.
So that means you're doing what you got to do. It means you're getting after it. Even if it's just a road work in the morning. What Echo Charles called Echo Charles road work.
Yep. Now, keep in mind, this road work I'm talking about as it applies to life is a lot more beneficial than just the physical elements of it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, I get it, dude. I support you.
Right on.
Hey, but if you step it up a little bit more than that,
sure,
you're going to need some fuel. Hey, check out Jocko Fuel, jockofuel.com. Speaking of, you could hear Chris spent some time in Walmart. Mm-hmm. You can get Jocko Fuel in Walmart, by the way, if you didn't know that. You can also get it at Wawa, Vitamin Shop, GNCs, military commissaries, AFES, Hannaford, Dash Stores in Maryland, Wakefern, ShopRite, HEB down in Texas, Meijer in the Midwest, Wegmans, Harris Teeters, Publix. Just got into Publix down in like the southeast Florida. So if you need it, go get it. We're also in a bunch of gyms. We're in gyms, chiropractors. If you're a chiropractor or you own a yoga studio or a jiu-jitsu gym or whatever, powerlifting gym, performance-oriented gym, sell Jocko Fuel there. Email jfsales@jockofuel.com. We got everything that you need. Got energy drinks. We got protein. I saw you drinking a protein during the recording of that last podcast.
Hell yeah.
Were you going catabolic?
No, I was not going catabolic. Which
Danger?
Is the whole reason. Well, you know, if you don't drink, if I, in this particular situation, didn't drink the milk, yeah.
Did you lift this morning?
No.
Are you lifting after we get done?
Yes.
Did you walk this morning?
No.
No road work for the kid.
Woke up, came here. Yeah.
Well, whatever you need, we got supplements for you. Greens, creatine. Are you on the creatine train right now? How many scoops a day?
One a day, every morning.
I'm on 2 a day.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yep.
So the protocol is, and this is helpful. Protocol is first thing in the morning. Water already staged. I got that from you, by the way. Creatine staged with the water, with the hydrate.
Are you dry scooping it?
No.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
Creatine hydrate packet in the water. That's already everything already staged. Boom. First thing in the morning. Every single morning.
I'm dry scooping creatine.
Okay.
Morning and night.
Yeah, okay. Hey, man. That's a good, cool. But yeah, I like my protocol. It's way more comforting.
There you go. JockoFuel.com. Get what you need to be jacked and in shape and healthy.
Capable.
The whole 9 yards. By the way, we were talking about with Chris, Oliver, Anthony, we're talking about bad foods. Go read the ingredients. Then read the ingredients on Jocko Fuel. Just do it. Go take a look. We got you covered. The clean goods. There you go. Also, OriginUSA.com. We talk about America. We talk about the revival of America. We talk about bringing people back and bringing manufacturing back. That's what we're doing. OriginUSA.com. Everything made in America. Pants, jeans, t-shirts, hoodies, gis, jiu-jitsu gis, jiu-jitsu rash guards if you're in the no-gi era of your life.
Yeah.
We're making jiu-jitsu belts now.
Yeah. Fucking want one.
Well, we might be able to make that happen. Actually, you know, because I've only had one black belt the whole time.
Yeah.
And it is old. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's special.
Yeah. No, definitely, because you only had one.
Yeah.
But I'm getting a new one, too.
Yeah, fully. And
I feel like I need it.
Yeah. Yeah, especially the Origin one. I mean, you know, that's the good one for sure.
Yep. So, OriginUSA.com, everything 100% made in America. Hunt gear, workout gear, just everything that you need. Go check it out. OriginUSA.com. Boom.
It's true. Also, Jocko's store called Jocko Store. This is where we can get our merch. When we're on the path, we want to represent discipline equals freedom. In my case right now, stand by to get some. It's a good one. Get after it. You know, all these notions, we'll call them for lack of a better term. Anyway, you want to represent, that's where you go. JockoStore.com. The hoodies, quick flip hoodies. They're not super heavy, by the way. They're like a medium light Perfect for spring, by the way. They're restocked. Because a lot of people were hitting me up. Hey, what's up with it? You know, they're restocked. So boom, hit it. Also, the Shirt Locker, which is a subscription shirt scenario. Get a new design every month. Let me ask you this. This is just for your opinion. Your opinion, because this will have no effect because I already sent it. But it's almost like a rebel against drinking scenario. So you know how sometimes there's like parodies, right? I'll do like a parody shirt. Yeah. Like there's one that's like of a certain candy bar, but it says discipline, right? So it's like a be disciplined rather than eat candy bars, right? It's like an anti-candy bar scenario. There's one of anti-beer. So it looks like a beer brand, but it says discipline equals freedom instead of the beer. Is that appropriate, you think? Or does it come off like, oh, I'm representing the beer brand? You know, like, what do you think?
I think it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's good because it's like you go, oh, yeah, beer. Oh, no.
Nope. Discipline.
Yeah. See, I like it. You don't have the same little vibes.
Yeah, so I didn't know if we were taking it too far, because there's one thing to be anti-candy bar that's like pretty, like, it's fun, you know, but to bring the beers into it, I don't know. Felt like, oh wait, am I pushing it? Maybe I am. Nonetheless, I'm
very anti-beer at this point in my life.
There you go.
So let's make fun of beer if we can.
Yeah. It's all on jockostore.com. Go ahead, check those out.
Also check out primalbeef.com. Primalbeef.com from the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. We're gonna have to get Chris out there to have a look around Sean Glass's facilities out there. So check it out, primalbeef.com. We have steak for you, and we also have coloradocraftbeef.com, which is up in Colorado. Both companies, awesome people making awesome steaks. Primal Beef has jerky. Colorado Craft Beef has meat sticks, and they got beef tallow. Have you heard of this thing yet?
Of course. I'm down for the beef tallow.
Have you cooked with it yet?
Yeah, not the Colorado Craft Beef one, but I have. No, I'm down. Yeah,
it's
legit.
Good. It's good because you can use it instead of putting like oil in a
butter,
pan or butter. No, tallow. Boom.
Butter.
We're good. 100%. So check those out. Also subscribe to the podcast. Also check out JockoUnderground.com. Also our YouTube channels. We got a bunch of them. Check out Psychological Warfare. You can get into that. And then we got some books. I've written a bunch of them. That just reminded me. Chris said something about a book when we were out there talking, but we didn't discuss it. Maybe he's writing a book. I don't know. Well, check it out. I've written a bunch of books. If you want to know anything about leadership, you can check those out. A bunch of kids' books. Way the Warrior Kid. Check those out. Also, Echelon Front. We have a leadership consultancy. We solve problems through leadership. Go to echelonfront.com for details. Next big event that we have is in San Diego. It's February 23rd through the 25th. These things always sell out, so make sure you go and register. Go to echelonfront.com to register. Also, we have an online training course, or it's actually a whole series of courses, and it is called the Extreme Ownership Academy. You can learn the leadership skills that will help you with every aspect of your life. Go to extremeownership.com and register and take some of those courses. There's some free courses on there. Just take the free ones if you're like, oh, I can't afford this. Cool. Just take the free courses. Learn for free. They will help you. Guaranteed to help you. And if you want to help service members, active and retired, you want to help their families, you want to help Gold Star families, check out Mark Lee's mom, Mama Lee. She's got an amazing charity organization. If you want to donate or you want to get involved, go to americasmightywarriors.org. Also check out heroesandhorses.org. We know that Chris Oliver Anthony likes to go out into the wilderness and get in touch with himself and his soul. Well, that's what heroesandhorses.org does. And then also Jimmy May has an organization called beyondthebrotherhood.org. Helps SEALs get into the civilian world in a smooth manner. And if you want to connect with us, starting with Chris, he's at oliveranthonymusic.com. He's on Instagram, Oliver_Anthony_music_. He's on Twitter X at Ain't Got a Dollar. And the one thing that he said he's going to stick with is his YouTube channel at Oliver Anthony Music. And you can find his music wherever you want to find music, whether that's Spotify, iTunes, everything. They got you covered. So check that out. For us, I'm at Jocko.com, and both of us are on social media, whether we're hypocrites or not. Hey, listen, fire Can be good, right?
Yep, sure
Can be good. Cook a steak with it.
Oh, yeah.
You can warm your house with it.
Oh, yeah.
So it can be good. It can also burn down half of Los Angeles
Yes, sir.
in a real bad way. So let's think of social media as a little fire. You can use it properly, or you can let it destroy your life. So just be careful of that. If you can maintain some control, I'm at Jocko Willington. Echo is at Echo Charles. Just be careful. Don't let the thing burn you. Thanks once again to Chris Oliver Anthony Lunsford for joining us tonight. Thanks for sharing your stories and your lessons learned. And thanks to all the hardworking people out there across America, from the factories to the farms, from the construction sites to the cornfields, fixing our power lines, drilling for our oil and gas, building, making, and fixing our great nation. Thank you all for the hard work you do every day. Also, thanks to our service men and women who are out there every day and night, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They're out there to protect us and our way of life, and we thank you. Same goes to our police, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, dispatchers, correctional officers, Border Patrol, Secret Service, and all other first responders. Thank you for being there for us as well. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, protecting us here at home. And everyone else out there. Going back to the book of Ecclesiastes. When times are good, be happy. But when times are bad, consider this. God has made one as well as the other. It is good to grasp the one and not let go of the other. Some good word from the good book. So stay grounded, everyone. Not too high, not too low. And until next time, Zecco and Jocko out.